right, you guys ready? Ready? Trustee Meagan? Trustee Meagan? You guys ready? I now call to order the August 13th, 2024 regular meeting of the Board of Trustees, time being 6:30 p.m. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Clerk, may I get a roll call, please?
Trustee Moyer,
Present.
trustee Teets,
Here.
trustee Wiegand. Here. Trustee Cannon,
Here.
trustee Daly,
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Mason,
Here.
Mayor Shosse.
Here.
Thank you. We have a quorum.
Thank you, sir. Any amendments to the agenda this evening? Okay. I will be amending the agenda. Beforehand, though, I just want to talk to you guys. People online, people here. The water situation, it's not great. That's honest. And there's no words that I can say that's going to make this easier, better, not any harder on your wallet. These are words, but they're coming from my heart. And I care about you guys. I care about Wellington. Everybody up here cares about Wellington. I can guarantee you that all of these trustees beside me are doing everything we possibly can to find you solutions, to lower the cost of your water, and to make things work better for this town, for you guys, and better for your wallets. We want this place to thrive, right? Right now, we are between a rock and a hard spot. There's no doubt about that. Years and years led up to this. And we are here fixing that. We're not kicking the can down the road anymore. We're here to fix the problem. And right now, it is costing us. It is costing us. And it's going to hurt for a little while, but we're going to do everything we can. And we are pursuing avenues to lower your water as we currently speak. We're working on renegotiating our 1983 agreement with North Pooter. That has been active for a while. I cannot guarantee you when that will happen, but I can guarantee you we are fighting to get that done as soon as we possibly can. That would be the biggest relief that we could possibly provide. So be privy to that we are doing everything we can. Trustee Teets has been a huge proponent of a secondary source of water. Staff is on that. We have advisory council right now looking into secondary sources of water for this town. That not only may help us lower costs in the future, but also give us safety if our water source goes down. Right now, we have one provider. And so that's vital for us, for growth and the success of this town. We're going to have this staff presentation. What I'm going to amend for is a staff presentation on the water rates to give you guys the history and the background of where we came from, where we're at, and where we're going. Seems like there's a lot of misinformation that's being spread around online. And some of you may say, we're not here for you because we're not commenting on those. Some of us do not comment on social media just because I personally don't. I don't view it as a professional platform to have communications. There's an email address, a phone number. You can reach out to me and call me and talk to me. You can reach out to the town. We do have trustees here that will reach out to you on social media. I'm not saying they're being unprofessional when they do, but we have them. There's people that will reach out to you there. So if you're not feeling like you're being heard or we're taking care of you guys just because we're not responding on Facebook, we are here for you. These meetings, I'm glad to see this room full. I've been mayor now for 2.5 years. I've only seen this room full maybe 3 times. We have 2 to 3 meetings a month. Usually there's 1 to 2, 3 people here. And so I'm glad to see the engagement. I mean, I know you guys are worked up and you're upset and that's why you're here. But I'm glad you're here. Your voices matter. That's all I have to say on that. So I would like to amend the agenda to have a staff presentation, and I would like to make that item A5. And then that'll happen before public comment, and then before public comment, I'll brief you guys again after that presentation.
Understood, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Are there any conflicts of interest this evening?
Mayor Shosse, I have a conflict with item C1, so I'll be recusing myself.
Thank you, sir. All right, now we will have the staff presentation. And it'll be Mr. Ed Gowing, our engineer, and I believe Meagan Smith, our director of, there we go. Okay.
Good evening, Mayor and Trustees.
Good evening.
Meagan Smith, Deputy Director of Public Works. I appreciate the opportunity to come in front of you tonight and give this presentation. I am going to share my screen here and also make sure that some folks, yes.
Yeah, each one of you should have one of these.
So thank you again for letting us come and present this evening. Finance Director Nick Redavid and I will be sort of tag teaming this presentation as it definitely touches on both utilities and our finances combined. We do have copies, as this was a last minute add to the packet agenda this evening. I did provide copies in front of each of you for the Board of Trustees and the Mayor. There was a short stack of copies that are also available on this table up front for those in attendance. I know that these monitors can be difficult to read sometimes. So we'll go ahead and go ahead.
I want to rotate that TV so maybe those in the back can see it.
Perfect.
Thank you.
And then do we need to hold for any modification for seating? Is everybody able to seat who needs to be seated?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Excellent. So we'll go ahead and get started. This presentation has a fair bit of information in it. And we're going to try and move through it as quickly as we can. So we have a full agenda this evening, but we realize the importance and the significance of this item this evening. So I'm going to let Nick jump in and give you a quick overview.
Good evening. So first, I just wanted to go over real quick what an enterprise fund is. The town of Wellington does have 3 enterprise funds: water, wastewater, and drainage. These are essentially funds that operate like a business or a nonprofit. In the expenditures, meaning the cost to run the utility has to be paid for by the revenues. And that's per our state constitution codified in Article 10, Section 20. So the revenue sources for the town of Wellington's enterprise funds are rates that are paid by current customers, impact fees it's paid by developers, loans and grants, and then we are able to receive up to 10% of the revenue in funds from taxpayer transfers through the general fund. That is limited by the taxpayer bill of rights. So all the other 90% does have to be generated by the fund. The expenditures in a fund are typically going to be your operations and maintenance as well as capital improvements. So when the utilities are being built out or upgraded, that has to be paid for by the fund as well. Financial health of utilities is critical. So as we've seen over the last several years, we've had to make some big updates to our treatment plants, and we need to make sure that the funds are financially stable to support that. So fund balance policies, rigorous accounting practices, continuous monitoring, and regular periodic rate and impact fee updates.
So speaking of that financial health piece, and as Mr. Redavid did speak to the ongoing treatment plant expansions that we've been progressing through and are nearly complete at the water treatment facility and hoping to be complete in the fall for the wastewater treatment facility. Another important piece of continuous review and monitoring and those periodic updates that are required for rates is to ensure that we're continuing to keep pace with our expenditure level. One of the places where the town did unfortunately fall behind in that keeping pace is in the ever increasing cost of our raw water source, which comes in the form of a contract negotiated agreement with North Pooter Irrigation Company. That raw water source provides the bulk of the raw water for the town and has seen a 640% increase in the last 10 years. For example, I put some numbers up here on this slide that shows that in 2013, the primary per unit cost we paid for that water was $520 an acre foot. However, in 2023, that cost was $3,800. So I definitely want to highlight there was an inability to keep pace with an ever-changing and increasing rate that we don't have a great deal of control over, and that is dictated by a set of variables that are also outside of our control, such as the share price for a share of water, market share price, as well as interest rates, which we all know skyrocketed in the last couple of years. For example, the 2022 invoice for that water source was over $2.6 million. And now the 2023 invoice reduced to only $1.5 million. And that's a direct correlation to the fact that we, meaning the town and all of our residents, used far less water in 2023 than we did in 2022. And I'll touch on this graph that's there on the slide there again, but that just illustrates that significant precipitation that we had in 2023. Than what we had in 2022, and then also by far than what we've seen this year in 2024. And that does have a strong correlation to how much water is utilized in the town. And then I wanted to highlight then within those funds, there's two most significant expenditures in the drinking water fund, which is that North Pooter invoice, as well as our SRF, our state revolving fund loan that we secured for the construction of the new facility. That loan amount is just under $1.5 million on an annual basis. As you can see, even in a lesser water demand year, like 2023, that cost for that North Pooter invoice exceeds the loan amount that we pay on an annual basis. And for reference, I threw in a couple of pieces of information regarding our total non-capital expenditures in the water fund. So you could kind of get a feel for the percentage that invoice is, right? So 2.6 million of 6.2 million, that's over 40% of the entire non-capital expenditures in the fund are for that one line item, as an example. Now, in the wastewater fund, for sure, we don't have the same kind of outside contract there. But our singular highest non-capital expense in the wastewater fund is our SRF loan payment. We have not completed draw on that loan as we've not completed construction of the project. We're continuing to draw on that. But you can see that total loan amount that we secured also through a state revolving fund loan, an excellent deal for the town, probably the lowest cost money we could get. That loan amount in 2024, so starting this year, is $2.3 million. And that loan amount has increased over 22, 23, and then up to 24 as we're drawing on that loan. And then there's interest accruing on those pieces. Again, I put up for the same reference, kind of the non-capital expenditures out of the wastewater fund, also in 22 and 23. So you can see how much those costs are going to be increasing. Those loan payments are increasing our total non-capital expenditures in that fund. So we're going to dive right into some history of our water rates, water and wastewater rates. This slide has a lot of numbers. I have boxed in red where we are today, as everyone here I'm sure is aware. But I did want to put those numbers in context all together in summary with where we have been before. So for our drinking water rates, you can see that information going back to 1992. Over on the right-hand side, that table reflects our wastewater basin usage rates going back to 2007, excuse me. You can see a transition in that table on the left for the drinking water rates. There's also a transition on the table on the right, but on the table on the left, you can see that transition where in 2022, and I'll get into this as we move forward, but we had a new rate structure that was put in place to take effect January of 2023. And that is why there's an additional section of tiers in that table up top. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Thank you very much.
Yeah, please hold comments till the end.
So also, it's not just as Director Redavid mentioned, it's not just usage rates are not our only revenue source. We do receive revenue from all development that comes in town, and that was also studied as part of the 2002 rate study that I'll dive into a bit. I did wanted to summarize for you to ensure that folks are aware that those costs to developers have been reviewed and are being updated and increasing at the same pace that construction costs increase, the cost of that burden and that tie into the town system increases as well. So we do have there again highlighted in red where we are today. So these are the current pricing structure. I also included on the right a small table that kind of reviews over the last few years what our raw water dedication requirement has looked like and what that accompanying cash in lieu price is. So that cash in lieu of turning in raw water kind of reflects that per acre foot, dollar per acre foot that we would charge a developer in order to come to town and to ensure that we can purchase the water that we would need to serve that property if they're unable to bring wet water. Historically, just as a point of reference, most development is met by bringing wet water, typically in shares of North Poudre as of recent. Now, moving forward, so let's kind of dive into that 2022 rate study. So this was a board-directed effort. The board asked us to, for the first time in quite some time, really do a very comprehensive review of all of the utility rates and impact fees. The previous study had been a little hopscotch in that it wasn't reviewing both usage rates and impact fees at the same time. And again, those work together to ensure that we have all the funding that we need to provide the services 24/7, 365. So that primary purpose of the rate study was to ensure the financial sustainability of the water and wastewater funds and to ensure that the rates and fees do recover costs proportionally across customer classes, as well as proportionally across existing customers and new development. As part of this rate study effort, we did engage a resident roundtable who came together to help us identify and who really identified themselves the values and principles used to develop a rate structure. For example, are we looking for rates to
There's somebody in the crowd with audio. Oh, okay. Okay.
I'll give up mine. Is anybody else? I'll call you down first.
You'd be able to view it on Zoom if you just mute your device so there's no feedback.
Yeah, it doesn't always allow you to mute it.
No, it didn't work.
I think we're good.
So we did engage that resident roundtable to provide that rate setting process with engagement from the community to identify the values and principles on developing rates. That is the primary, that was the primary driver for how we did develop a base rate, like our current base rate, that includes a basic level of water usage. That was a direct outcome from that engaged resident roundtable. The study outcomes for that process in 2022, we came up with updated water and wastewater rate structures across all of our customer classes, so residential, commercial, irrigation, updated all the capital investment fees associated with water and wastewater. It did develop a 5-year financial plan for both utilities, and one of the final recommendations was on top of that rate structure change was then a subsequent 5% annual increase for 5 years for usage rates, and then a 4% annual increase for 5 years for our capital investment fees. I do want to note that with direction from the board in 2023, we did review those capital investment fees and actually increase that by 5% based on the ever increasing construction costs. It was pretty justifiable to have those rates increase even higher than what was previously recommended. So this rate study was performed using industry standard methodologies. We contracted with Raftellus Consulting Company. They're actually a Colorado-based company who leads globally and specifically in the West of the United States with rate setting. They actually wrote the American Water Works Association Principles of Water Rates, Fees, and Chart Changes M1 manual. They're the author of that manual. They were an excellent team to work with. That process went through initially going through a financial planning analysis to determine what revenues are required to meet all the expenditures, and specifically what revenues are required across customer classes to ensure that all customer classes are paying for their own uses on the system or their own demands, and that's not muddying those waters across commercial or residential. There was a cost of service analysis that was performed. That was probably the most in-depth portion of the rate analysis that goes through, looks at all of our entire system from treatment, billing, invoicing, distribution, water quality, water testing, all of those costs, and ensures that they're allocated across peak day demands, seasonal peak demands, and those uses across customer classes as well, to ensure that the costs associated with any particular customer class is representative within the rates that we would set in that way. And finally, we did develop a whole new rate structure to align with the pricing objectives, with that main pricing objective being maintaining revenue stability in both the water and the wastewater funds, doing our very best to minimize the whiplash customer impact that roundtable and this board and previous boards are very aware of, that impact of changing rate structures that our residents have gone through since 2020. So one of the efforts was really to ensure that we came up with a plan that had a predictable and planned structure for implementation. It also included that essential water use pricing. That was the term that was utilized for that 3,000 gallons that is included in that base price. So it was an effort to ensure that we could come up with the best way to provide that essential use water at the lowest cost possible for those first few thousand gallons. It was also key to ensure that we were proportionally recovering cost, again, across customer classes, and that we had appropriate cost recovery between new and existing customers, really ensuring that development is paying its own way into our system. So here is just a snapshot of kind of when that new rate structure took effect in January of 2023. Just as a reminder back to that summary table of a history of our water rates, the town of Wellington has had a tiered rate system in place for a very long time, since the early 90s for sure. That's pretty, that is impressive for a small community, that they understood that the more water that is used, the more stress it's causing on the system. And the reality is that irrigation usage that's used in the summer actually dictates the size of all of the infrastructure that we have to build and maintain. That is the peak season when water is being used. And so it really does bear the brunt of some of those higher tier costs, as without that super high demand in the summer months, we could build smaller infrastructure. It did reflect some updated tier volumes, levels, and pricing. So those volumes within each tier. And then those volumes were actually based on a residential bill analysis that was performed. So we looked at the average, the number of bills across a year, which is about, what was the number? 47,000. That's the number of, of monthly bills that we generate in a year, give or take. And those tiers were set up such that, 47% of those bills on an annual basis, so 47% of those monthly bills would always be contained within that base rate usage. So they would only ever see that base rate charge on those bills. The next 33% would see usage within that tier 2, so that 3,000 to 7,000 gallons of usage, 16% there in tier 3, and about 3% on an annual basis. So 3% of those 47,000 bills that we would send out in a year would ever exceed that 20,000 gallons of usage tier. And that kind of lands us where we are today in terms of, this is kind of a snapshot of what you would see, what our customers, which all of you are, see on your bill on a monthly basis. Whether you would see some version of this, it will look a little bit different on the paper bills for those customers who receive their bill in the U.S. mail than it would look on Express Bill Pay, which is our online billing service and payment service. The structure of what you would see on that bill will look a little bit different, but you should see essentially the same information. It's going to include the water base rate at $52.20. So this is the most current rate for 2024. Again, Again, that rate includes those first 3,000 gallons of usage. You will see a sewer base rate. Historically, our sewer base rate was much higher than this dollar amount before we went through that rate study. And that's because that base rate actually included a base amount of usage. And in this rate study, we pulled that out. So the base rate only includes that, that business expense associated with serving water to any particular residence and any particular customer in our system, regardless of how much wastewater they produce. There's a base level cost that's associated with serving it. There is a storm drainage fee for the town of Wellington that's $5. And of course, the Box Elder Basin Regional Stormwater Authority, that's a pass-through charge that we collect and then pay on. And then our water usage rates and those tiers that you see listed there. And then it talks about, there's a little blurb at the bottom there that talks about how the sewer usage volumes are calculated for residential uses. It is different for commercial, but for residential uses, it's based on a winter quarter average of your water consumption. So January, February, and March being historically the lowest water usage months in the year for customers. And that winter quarter average is updated every year in April with the new volume, your new volume of usage reflected on the bill you would receive in May. So that's kind of summary of our billing structure right now. So I'm going to let Nick or Mr. Redavid step in again.
Just wanted to go over what the utility billing cycle looks like, the timeline, just to give an idea of how the statements are generated each month. So it starts with a meter read, which is a manual process where we have public works employees that go out and read all the meters throughout the town. And that typically takes place between the 20th and 25th of the month. We are looking at tightening that window if we're able to. The only concern is if there's a weekend or a holiday in a specific month, making sure we get all utility customers within that same window. On the last day of the month is the end of the current month's billing cycle. So billing cycle is a calendar month. The meter reads do occur differently, but that's just so we can get all the statements printed with the current meter reads. One thing to know on those statements is that charges do accrue in 1,000-gallon increments, meaning if you use 3,999 gallons, you will only be charged 3 1,000-gallon units. So you'd be charged for 3 units. In that case, you would fall in that first tier, which is included in the base rate. But again, if you use 4,999, you would receive a statement for 4 units. You'd have 1 unit in tier 2. On the 20th of the next month, that is the last day to request payment arrangements or to apply for the hardship utility grant. So that is, we try to have that there so that we can have all of those processed and in place before the due date being the 25th of the month. So when you get your statement, you have until the 25th of the month to make your payment. And then a late fee is assessed on the 26th of the month. If the bill goes delinquent, what would happen is the 15th of the second month following the statement, you would receive a notice in the mail of service termination or shut off. And then on the 26th of that month, if the bill is unpaid, the service would be terminated. There's an additional fee if that were to happen to have the service turned back on, and the outstanding balance would need to be paid in full. You doing trends? All right, so just some trends we wanted to go through. Looking at 2024 at the top, you can see the breakdown of usage for each of the tiers. We also have our average use in thousands of gallons, the average utility bill that does include all the base rates and all the utilities. So it's going to have the stormwater and the wastewater. And then the percentage of bills that fall within the tier 2 category of 7,000 gallons or less. So just going back to the rate study that Deputy Director Smith, Deputy Director Smith referenced, we did anticipate that 47% would be in tier 1, 33% would be in tier 2, 16% would be in tier 3, the remaining in tier 4. And you can see across 2024, we have for the most part, maintained that average. We do have a 2023 end of year average on your bottom right and a 2024 year-to-date average. So we are within that model as anticipated.
Let me just expand just a little bit because this is a lot of data and a lot of numbers on one slide. So I just want to make sure it's clear and everybody understands what you're looking at. So what that actually is telling you is that the first column in each one of these sections, so let's look at the very top left where it says January 31st, 2024. That's telling us how many bills in that month went out in each one of those tiers, meaning how many bills had a customer whose final water usage for the month was within that tier. So if they used 2,000 or 3,000, it would be within that tier 1. If they used 4, 5, 6,000, it would be in tier 2. So this isn't necessarily telling you how much water was used. It was telling you how many bills reflected usage within that tier as their final volume for the month. And that's where that summary can come in. A couple of things, that average use down across the bottom there, that is saying how many thousands of gallons of water was average for the bill for all bills in that month. Now, of note, we are aware that that averages across the entire town, of which several neighborhoods in our town have non-potable irrigation available for their use, and I'll touch on that again. So we do understand that that's maybe skewed low compared to those folks who use potable irrigation at their residence. And again, those summaries tables in the bottom right really reflect and tie in very tightly with what was expected based on that utility billing analysis that was done, that residential billing analysis that was part of the rate study that was utilized to how those tiers were developed. Looking at how many bills in any given year would fall into those tiers and paying those tiered rates. So I did want to touch on, and I know I've touched on this a couple slides back, this graph should look familiar. I do want to touch on weather impacts that we have seen that has made comparing last year to this year quite difficult, both in the actual data and also in maybe our memory banks. So 2023 for most of Larimer County, and for sure all of the eastern portion of Larimer County, saw the wettest year on record, 128-year record kept by ARDEC, Agricultural Research Station, CSU station, that's at the southeast corner of town that collects that data. That's where this information came from. Wettest year on record, 128 years. That's going to have a really significant impact on, I don't want to get too detailed, but the evapotranspiration requirement of your turf grass or any of your plants that we have in both our parks and in our homes. 2024 has been significantly drier and warmer this summer, much more on target with what kind of average years are. In that graph there, the green line, and I apologize for those that are, we put this together pretty quickly, so I apologize for those who maybe can't differentiate between the colors. I apologize there, but the highest line there is green. That is reflects 2023 precipitation. The jagged line there in the center, that is blue, that is 2022 monthly precipitation, just to give us a little bit backwards. And then the orange line, or that one that falls more in the middle, that saw more precip in the start of the year and far less as we've moved into the summer months, that is 2024 year to date. I'm going to let Nick jump in here. You want me to, I got this. So we have received, of course, a great deal of customer outreach, beginning with when we sent June bills that were received the first week in July. We have had a number of work orders that have been submitted and performed. So a work order, if a customer calls the town or reaches out, emails our utilities email address, calls our front desk and receives or is able to speak with Flip, our utility billing specialist. Generally, we'll go through some history with them. Sometimes she is able to answer the questions that they have. If there is a concern by a customer that there's a leak at their home or commercial business for that matter, there is the ability to submit a work order, and we have had 89 work orders as of yesterday, end of day yesterday. So, less than 90 work orders that have been performed. Of those 90, we've had 3 confirmed, what we would kind of phrase as an infrastructure related failure. So a true infrastructure leak, a meter horn separated from a pipe inside a crawl space, a service line failure in the yard, that sort of thing. Most of our customer contact has come from residents that use potable water for residential irrigation. For reference, we've included this map here. I realize it's small, but this is mainly just to get a feel for the reason that it can feel like, or not feel like, the reason that it is true that pockets of town seem to be more impacted right now is because there are pockets of town that have non-potable HOA managed irrigation systems available to irrigate their residential property. Other pockets of town do not. For example, these neighborhoods shown in brown and in pink, they are all on potable water for irrigation. Neighborhoods shown in the green, they have non-potable water available for their irrigation outdoors. And that is through those non-potable systems are through existing agricultural wells that were located within the development. And that is why that is available in some places and not available in others. One thing we have developed as through this work order process and the additional time that we've spent in the field helping customers review their information is where available, meaning where we have smart meters in place, we have been able to pull some history from those meters, which has been really helpful in identifying usage patterns for customers, unusual usage patterns such as maybe a 1 to 3 gallon per hour running toilet, or oh my goodness, I really am putting down 3,000 gallons per irrigation cycle 4 times a week. There's a variety of that that has been identified. It's been very helpful. Now, unfortunately, we do not have our full automated metering infrastructure in place. When we do, which we have about 1,000 residential homes that still need, that are still on our older mechanical meters. We also need a full networking system in place, which means radio towers and the infrastructure in place to receive all of that data. And then we also need the software in place. And that has been in our capital improvement budget. And we have been actively trying to receive a grant. We applied for a grant earlier this year. We were unsuccessful. There's another rotation of that funding in the fall that we were actively still grant writing for. When we're able to complete that, that will allow a much more independent usage of those meters and the data that can come from them to allow customers to really see their usage in real time. And allow things like continuous consumption alarms that can notify our utility billing specialist live, or some communities, I've received a text before, you seem to have a water running consistently for 24 hours. So that has been a great help. One thing we have also been able to confirm through all of these efforts out into the field is that our meters are functioning properly. We haven't identified anything that's not been explainable through fixing a flap on a toilet, through modifying an irrigation schedule, through identifying a true leak that took place and being able to then resolve that with the customer because we could identify how many thousands of gallons were utilized. I'm gonna let you jump on this one.
So what I wanted to do with this information, this is actual information, board members sitting here, as well as some of the town staff, just show the impact that this is also happening on, to all of us. Many of us, all of us, excuse me, up here on the board do live in town, and many of us that work for the town live here as well. So there has been an impact from these rates on every person as well. And I just didn't want it to come across that we don't care, because we do. And many of us, and we know you do, many of us care, and it has an impact on us as well. Some of the other usage that we've seen in these data logs that we've been able to help residents with was 100 to 700 gallons per hour running 2 to 4 hours, 2 times a week. That was using 11,600 gallons. And that was on their June 30th statement. We had another resident with 200 to 600 gallons per hour for 2 hours, twice a day, 3 times a week. And that was 10,500 gallons on their June 30th statement. We had a resident with 500 to 600 gallons per hour for 3 hours daily, which was nearly 40,000 gallons on their July 31st statement. So by using these data logs and having this information and being out in the field, which when we get the phone calls from our residents and we're able to go out there and meet with them and look into this, we've been able to help them identify these and make changes to prevent issues going forward. You might recognize some of those pieces of information. So we did want to provide just previous information that's been provided to this board before. We know that there are extra eyes on the meeting tonight. A lot of this information has come from previous meeting packets. This packet will be available here in the coming days through the website and through our social media. So all of these links will be available with previous regular meetings and work sessions from the rate study so that our residents have access to all of this information as well. We do have some resources that have been posted on our website and shared through our social media, including the Slow the Flow irrigation audit from Resource Central, the hardship utility grant through the town that was created by this board of trustees. There are services available through other organizations in and around Larimer County. Again, all of this is already on the website, and this packet will be available for the community as well. And lastly, we did want to provide contact information for our utility billing department. Our utility billing department is one person. It is one person who sits at the front desk and answers the phones, responds to emails, does all of the statement generation. The best way to get in contact with them is through email. It also provides a way to ensure that we are able to track and respond appropriately. So we do recommend using the utilities@wellingtoncolorado.gov email address. You can also call the Municipal Services Building, which is the 970-568-3381. And we do have the hours posted there. So we are open early Monday through Thursday at 7:30. And that gives our expanded daily Monday through Thursday hours, as well as our hours on Friday of 8 to noon.
As I was standing there, I thought of 2 other points that I didn't get made. So back several slides, which I'm not going to do that, but when I was talking about the highest singular fund expenses and referring into the water fund to that North Poudre Irrigation Company contract, one thing I really wanted to highlight is this, and the mayor did reference this in his statement earlier. Town staff has been working diligently with North Poudre staff and the North Poudre board, who have also been incredible partners with the town in moving forward the negotiations for a new contract. Staff is meeting with staff. Their lawyers are meeting with our lawyers. This negotiation effort is progressing. I really wanted to highlight that they have been a good partner in ensuring that we can ensure the livelihood of the town into the future as we continue to look to diversify our source water supply. As the mayor mentioned earlier as well, we have kicked off a water source development planning effort that kicked off in June of this year. We've had our first meeting with an advisory group to provide input on that process as we look to identify alternatives, ensuring that in the future we have more than one source of water and ensuring that it is within a cost bracket that we can afford as a community, and has, just the right amount of risk based on the level of risk that you all are willing to take at that point. I also wanted to highlight, there were a few as we were talking about work orders. I did want to highlight the methodology that's utilized as we're out in the field collecting this data. So as I referenced, we have about 1,000 meters in the ground that are older mechanical meters that require somebody. You'll see one of our diligent crew out there that actually have to come and touch your meter with that. They have a wand with them. They'll come touch the top of your meter and it takes a read. It's actually a census brand wand that reads, that just generates from a radio frequency from the meter and reads it there. We have another 3,000 or so meters in the ground that are smart meters that have a radio. Those meters are able to be read right now since we don't have a network infrastructure in place. They're read through the software that's provided from Census and I think it's called an auto work software application that is a drive-by system. As we drive through the neighborhood, it pings and picks it up as the radio frequency on those meters are sending it out. And that software picks that application up. So when we have those data logs that are produced, it's not that data is coming out of an application and being dumped into a CSV file, which is generally then converted into an Excel spreadsheet. We're not just creating an Excel spreadsheet. Nobody's typing those numbers in. It is data that's generated in a comma delimited file that we can then put into Excel spreadsheet or other means to be able to review that. I've gone through the effort with some customers of, plotting that data so you can see trends. Trends are a lot easier to see in a visual than just in a big long table of numbers. So I did want to highlight that, as I know there have been some questions revolving in that area. And with that, I believe we can stand for question from the board if you have.
Are there any questions from the board? Trustee Teets?
I do have some questions. Thank you for your presentation. I know that I have hounded our board as well as the town of Wellington and its staff about answers related to our water, and it's nothing new. I've been doing it to Miss Meagan for 2 years, so she is extremely patient with me and my questions. The presentation is amazing. My question is what recommendation would you have to residents? Because I am on Facebook, and I assure you, I read every single one of the posts that come through. I guarantee it. I try to respond to as many as possible. And if you are sending me direct messages or emails, I try to also respond to those directly as well. What would you recommend to residents that have cut down their irrigation to almost nothing and are still seeing the uptick in their bill? So this means that they have just decided, you know what, my grass is going dead. And they see their bill still increase, even though they've shut off their irrigation. What recommendation would you have to them from that point when they see their bill climb?
I would recommend that likely, so the timing, unfortunately, that's one of the reasons that Director Redavid went through the billing timeline process. So if those meter reads are completed and submitted between the 20th and the 25th, we're processing a bill. We get it in the mail in the first week. By the time you receive a bill that reflects the usage that you had from, let's say May to June, and you received that bill the first week in July, and you shut off your irrigation system the second week in July, there were still 3 weeks between that last meter read and the last billing cycle, and when maybe action was taken on the ground to shut off or to modify an irrigation schedule. And so oftentimes there's going to be a lag, and you would likely still see a pretty significant impact from that irrigation, those 3 weeks of maybe, a significant amount of irrigation that would still come through then on the bill that you would have received the first week in August. My recommendation would be that, and if there's the ability to please, if you have questions or concerns or frustrations, frustrations, please send us an email at this utility contact email. If you feel it's not an emergency, we really would prefer an email, only because it allows us better internal tracking to ensure we've responded to everybody and allows us to be accountable to the time frame in which we're responding to folks as well. If you feel like it's an emergency and there's an active leak in your system, please do call and we can submit a work order. For those meters that are mechanical that we cannot pull a data log for, we can still do some troubleshooting on that end. I mean, if we come out and we can see that that meter is spinning, we'll stand there for several minutes. So it could be even a slow leak that we can still identify even with the mechanical meter. So my first and foremost suggestion would be to reach out to the town, as we're the folks that are going to be able to help you identify at least the most recent sets of usage and be able to see if we can pull data from that to help you identify any usage patterns that might have been represented. I do need to note that the a delay in that phone call, unfortunately, can limit the amount of data that we can retrieve. Those meters, especially like the first generation ones that we have out in the field, they are limited on the amount. They have only so much data space in their little PLC brain that's in the meter pit, and they can really only retrieve about 35 days of hourly data. So once we get beyond a certain window, we might not, if you've made a modification, we might have missed the window to be able to really see it, but, or to see the usage patterns prior to the modification and maybe how that sprinkler modification might have impacted the usage pattern.
Got it. Yes. So next question, payment arrangements. I am seeing online that we as a town have not offered residents, some residents, not all residents, payment arrangements. I see here we are offering payment arrangements. So all someone would have to do is reach out to the town
Correct.
and set up a payment arrangement.
Correct. Again, reach out through email, work with our utility billing coordinator. Any escalated issues do come directly to me. So we are able to help with payment arrangements. Typically, those do need to be paid within a 3 to 6 month timeline. Just to ensure that revenues are met for the year to offset those expenses. But we do make payment arrangements, and I do encourage you to reach out by email.
Perfect. The software that was discussed, you kind of briefly touched on it. Will you explain more? You said that it's in our budget, the software for budgeting to be able to allow residents to see their usage in real time. Can you touch more on that for an explanation of what we're waiting for, what we're looking at as far as how viable that might be, say, within the next year?
So the AMI networking, so automated metering infrastructure, AMI networking project has been a line item in our budget for several years, as we have been putting money in those line items to replace our existing meters. In the 2024 budget, sorry, I've been talking about a lot of different years. In the 2024 budget, there was a line item included to try and complete that effort. What was put in so there was a note actually put with the budget as well that talked about if we did not receive the grant, we would not be pursuing that, as it is a very costly project and it was not elevated further. So we are continuing to apply for these grants. We will be applying again in the fall. There are other means as we go through, as we're just getting started with the 2025 budget process, to have that in discussion and direction from the board at any time in that budget process.
Thank you. I won't take up.
Of note, for those who might go reference the budget, the 2024 existing budget, the cost numbers that are in there do not reflect the additional costs of having the customer side interactive portal. So that is additional software costs that would be in addition to what is already there. So what we had originally had bid out was for the ability to have that interactive portal on our side that would send us notifications and alarms like to the billing department of one. And then we would reach out and contact, because we don't currently have that ability. We're not notified of a leak or don't see that until we read meters at the end of in the meter reading period. But there is ability to update that quote with that customer facing portal option as well.
Awesome. Thank you.
You bet.
Trustee Keenan.
Thank you. Meagan and Nick, thank you so much for coming tonight. And I want to thank everyone for showing up tonight to express their concerns about this. This bothers me a lot. You didn't see my example up there, but I think our bill was $500. And that's a lot of money. I'm retired. I'm waiting for Social Security to start. I don't have any income coming in. I'm like living off of savings right now. And that's a hard pill to swallow for anybody. And I can't imagine what that would be for a working family with kids. It's horrendous. But I am encouraged. So I want to kind of make sure I heard a few things correctly here. Yes, we are operating off of the 1983 North Pooter contract, which most people may not be aware, benefited the town greatly for probably 30 years. After that, it got a little bit more complicated. And you mentioned a couple of the variables in there. You mentioned the price of North Buda share, which in the past 7 years has more than doubled. You also mentioned interest rates, which have gone up dramatically. And I'm very familiar with that contract. So all these variables and all these bits of information go into this formula that tells the town how much they have to pay North Buda for the water. And the only variable, quite frankly, in that contract that we can control is how much water we consume. Everything else is so arbitrary. The cost of a North Buda share has nothing to do with North Buda's ability to deliver water to Wellington. Interest rates on farm loans, which are pulled out of the air, have nothing to do with North Buda's ability to deliver water to Wellington. Now, this is a problem that we've known about for several years now. And I understand that the negotiations from the town level have been going on almost a year now. Is that correct? Or or a little bit longer?
Closer to 2.
2 years. I know it takes time because you've got different boards, you've got different interests, you've got legal on both sides and so forth. And this has been a long time contract, and North Buda has been part of this town since it originated back in the early 1900s. But I understand that the negotiations are going extremely well, that those negotiations, if successful, based on, the tentative points that both parties have kind of aligned on, could significantly reduce the cost of North Buda water for the town and therefore to all the residents. So I'm encouraged by that. I'm also encouraged by the study to find new sources of water. Quite frankly, if something were to happen in North Buda, we'd be dry. And we can't afford to do that, so we have to continue that. I like the idea that there's a payment plan in place. I brought this up to our town administrator and the mayor as recently as last week about, can't we figure out some kind of payment plan? Can't we amortize water bills over the entire year so we're not seeing these peak demands in the summer and drastic lows and so forth? I understand that with a little research, we did need to find out whether or not our software can even handle something like that. But I think it's something that we should still continue to pursue. I also know that the difference between an enterprise fund and a general fund, and the enterprise fund, according to the state constitution, we can't tax property owners and use the money to pay for the utilities. So taking money from the general fund to help offset people's bills is against the law. We can't do that. Even trying to phrase it as a form of a loan still has to have a payback period, if you can even do that as well. So I don't really have a question, but I do want to let everyone know that not just me, but everybody here feels your pain, feels our pain, because it's collectively, it's our pain as well as yours, because we all live here in town. I believe that we are doing everything that we can to get that contract renegotiated. We have just kicked off in just the past 6 weeks or so, the new water source study that we have. The company that we've contracted with has got a great reputation. It takes years to develop a water source, and it takes a lot of money to develop a water source. But I feel that once we do that, we will be in a better position, a more sustainable future for everybody here in town, for residents and for the town itself and for our infrastructure. I do read those comments on Facebook as well. I don't comment a lot, But I can't this week, but I tell you what, next week, I'm going to set up a couple of dates where I'm going to be available. If somebody wants to just come and talk, we'll make them in the mornings, we'll make them in the evenings. It won't be like a town hall, but I want to hear from you. I want to hear what your things, what your thoughts are. I want to hear what your suggestions are. I want to hear how it's hurting you personally. There's a gentleman that I met beginning of the summer, and shortly after we met, we sat down on his front porch and we talked about the water issues. And I hope I was able to explain a little bit about what got us here. But I think it's more encouraging that we understand that we're not just abandoning the future. We're actually actively working toward finding solutions. But like the mayor said, our hands are tied to some degree because we can't just start transferring funds, from the general fund to the water fund. I'd love to be able to do that. I'd love to be able to say, okay, let's ever give everybody a forgiveness on their water bill or something like that. We just can't do that because then we'll bankrupt our water fund. These are tough decisions, and I want everyone to understand that the Board of Trustees, including myself and staff, are doing everything that they can to try to find solutions to make this work. The audits, we used one of the audit services that came to our house. They evaluate all of our sprinkler system. I know I've got a little leak on one of my systems, but I dialed back my irrigation. And I guess compared to some people, my cost isn't as much as maybe some of yours, but it's still a burden. It's still a burden. No one should be paying that much money for the water. Anyway, that's all I had to say. Thank you for being here tonight.
Thank you, sir. Trustee Lowry? More? Sorry.
One day I'll get it right.
I know.
I've spent nearly every day for the last 9 years advocating for affordability. I hesitate to speak right now because I'm going to get emotional. I'm so sorry we're in this position. All of us are, honestly. Basic human needs should not be something that you have to fight for. And right now we're in that position. None of us want to be here. And I promise you, every single one of us are doing everything we can to find resources to make this better for all of us. I'm just sorry, and thank you for being here. I'm also available if you want to talk. I care about this town. I care about the residents. And we need to fix this. None of us are unaware of that. And we all want to make it better.
Thank you. Trustee Meagan?
We're all feeling pain, that's for sure. I was that lucky one up there that had a $655 bill that I just got in the mail yesterday. I started talking with some of the neighbors when I got my $473 one, saying, what in the world is going on? And talked to one of the neighbors, and he told me about a system that he's using. I mean, he's over in my same edition. He had $200 and some odd bill. How in the heck did you do that? And he told me about Cycle and Soak. It's a Rainbird program. And at the end, when I got that 655, I noticed that my controller for the Rainbird was running continuously for like 2 days at nighttime. And I think that's probably the reason it went up that extra 8,000 gallons. It might have even been more than that. I'm not sure, because I thought I had actually dialed my watering time back. But set up with this Cycle and Soak, what I am figuring, and this is something that we can solve an immediate problem while we're still having to pay high prices for the gallons, okay? What I'm figuring is, before I did that, I was running 54 hours a month watering. by doing this cycle and soak, 38 hours. That's 16 hours. I don't have no idea how much that's going to end up saving me. I hope it's a minimum $120 to $150 a month off the $455. I mean, that's almost affordable. But there's got to be some way to get a little bit of an immediate relief here. And I would suggest, I mean, I know some of the people had already heard of that. I never had. I mean, it just boggled my mind when I heard about this system. I would run 16-minute cycles in my yard. I'd have a river flowing down the road. Now I do 12 minute, and it goes like 4 cycles and then repeats again. Very little water goes on the road. That's money I don't have to pay there. I'm not growing a road, so I don't want to have to do that. But think about that. I mean, that's an immediate thing that people can do. It costs me $150 for the new controller. You might be able to figure out how to do it on your current one. And it cost me, I did the Wi-Fi thing for another $100, so $250, and I figure that's going to pay myself back within 2 months. And I mean, I'm getting ready to retire here too. I can't afford $500, $600 a month. So I'm feeling you guys' pain too. And like I say, just had to think about it, had to figure out, the best thing for me. And I definitely wanted to relay that to everybody too, because I mean, that could be a short-term solution to help some of the pain that we're dealing with. So good luck.
Thank you. Trustee Daly?
This has been a horrible situation that I've been forced to make decisions on for a very long time, and before that, learning about. You guys have learned tonight some of the content that has been presented to the board and or presented to the board at least 20 times, unfortunately, because we revisit this so many times and so significantly, especially during the time that we were doing this study. So I promise there is no knee-jerk reaction happening right now or for this season. We have unfortunately been dealing with this and making these decisions for years, which it's been the most horrible thing to do. Because even if you understand, and we understand it very intimately at this point, and there's some amazing additional analysis tonight that that I appreciate. Thank you. I haven't seen that specific content, but we're very intimately involved in what's going on and know what the numbers look like, what the requirements are, and what the costs are to the town. And that information is so horrible to have because we know the actual situation that we're dealing with, which is, we can't put that lightly. This is a very, very severe and critical situation that we've faced up to this point. So us knowing that, and now you knowing a lot of it, I think it's helpful, but that doesn't pay your bills when you can't afford it. So I'm not going to say, now that you know, you should feel better. That's wrong. That's not what's going to happen. You still may not be able to afford your bills. I appreciate that we're communicating everything we know that's led to the decisions that we've done thus far. I mean, that as a town is what we can do is provide the communication. It doesn't improve our situation, and then knowing that we are actively and have been for years pursuing additional opportunities to lessen the burden on utility rate payers. I was board member number 3 on the example. If anybody wants to see my bills, mine are significantly less than a lot of other people's, and I've made some changes at my home to make that be. I've been very water conscious for some of my landscaping. If you want to talk about that, I'd be happy to do it. And the town also has a landscaping guide that provides a lot of information on species of plants and things that thrive with little or no water. But of course, if you're not able to pay your bill right now and you're in the audience saying, I can't afford to pay my bill, so for sure I'm going to take out all my landscaping and redo it, that's also not viable. So I am so sorry that we're in this situation, and I'm so sorry for our board to have to deal with it because it's horrible. So my heart goes out to everybody.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Ms. Smith, Mr. Redavid, really appreciate you guys coming out tonight and giving us this presentation. Obviously, this is difficult for everybody. Certainly, I'll echo the same comments that everybody else has made here, which is that, I read all the Facebook comments as far as that goes, and I'm certainly very well aware of where folks are at. I do have just a couple real quick questions, and then I don't know if I'll get into my giant diatribe here, but we'll see. Along the lines of Trustee Tietz's comment, I don't know if our billing system will allow for this, but would it be possible to have residents that want to optionally pay more in the wintertime, help assist with their summertime bills as kind of a wintertime subsidy type of thing, whatever you want to call it, I suppose?
I am actively looking into budget billing. Currently, I do not believe so, in that an overpayment does automatically get refunded. So if, like, at the end of a billing cycle, if there's an overpayment, there are checks that get mailed out.
Bless you.
So that is a high priority. I have heard it from Trustee Cannon, Trustee Teets, and we'll hopefully bring something back. I do know it was something that the town offered at one point. And I don't know the reason for the change, but I am working with our software provider on that.
Great, thank you, Nick. One other thing I just probably would ask from staff here, obviously, since we're halfway through the year now, we've got some numbers and we're going to be coming up on the budget season this year. So I think I would like to ask that we very much consider the pricing of Tier 4 and whether maybe we can extend out the third tier, assuming that fits within the current model and that we're able to pay the NPIC water bill at the end of the day. That's obviously number one priority there. So that would be my ask from staff. I just for full transparency, as far as I'm concerned, my bill this month was $180. I used 9,000 gallons on my property. My property's in the Meadows. I've got a comparable lot size to Trustee Meagan. My grass is perfectly green with 9,000 gallons of water. I am not gonna lie to you. I use probably about 2,000 gallons or so in my home, so the rest of that is exclusively irrigation. But I can tell you, for my lot size, if you're irrigating more than that, it's probably not necessary. So I'm only point that out because there's two schools of thought, it seems to me, on this particular thing. One is that rates are simply too high, and the other one seems to be that meters were maybe misread or estimated. Ms. Smith, can you speak to meter estimates as far as that go, and whether we've done any estimates in the last 2 months?
To the best of my understanding, no, we've not done any estimates in the last 2 months. I would also note that if you receive a utility bill and your meter reading has been estimated, it will say it very clearly on your bill. If you receive a print bill, it's in green letters out next to the section where it talks about meter reading, lists the meter reads. It would say estimated right there. So if it doesn't clearly demark estimated on your bill, it has not been estimated. And to my knowledge, no, we have not done any estimated reads, and for sure. Pardon? No, it's occasional, but in several months for sure.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So I just want to be clear for everybody. So we do not estimate meters unless your meter is inaccessible, right? Okay. And that's addressed in section 13-1-100 of the town code. An example of when a meter might be inaccessible would be like if it's covered under 5 feet of snow, something like that, right? So we do not do meter estimates in the summertime. One other thing I'd point out, Ms. Smith also mentioned it, we use industry standard census meters. Many municipalities across the nation use those. Those meters have an extremely low failure rate. So if you're getting a bill, I guess the bottom line is, if you're getting a bill that says, I'm on a lot size that's, personally, I'm on a non-pot system, and I used 9,000 this month. If my bill happened to be 20, 25, 30,000 gallons this month, I almost certainly know that I have an issue on my property. It's very unlikely that my meter has an issue, very unlikely. And there's a number of things this could be related to. Just one example I might give you is, we've had a number of different Excel outages this year. Some of those irrigation controllers will reset themselves if it's not got a battery backup and your power goes out. They may factory reset themselves. So just maybe something to keep in mind. Check on your irrigation schedule as far as that goes. But I think what I want to convey here is that, a lot of what we've seen on Facebook is that these 600, 700, $800 water bills. The average Wellington resident uses 7,000 gallons per month per year on average, right? So if you are one of those users that's really high up there, 35, 40,000 gallons, and you are certain that you are not irrigating and there's no leak in your house, please call the town. Please come get a hold of us so that we can come out and take a look at your property. Because the bottom line is, if you are convinced that you're not using that much water, it's going somewhere on your property. It is. So we need to know where that is, right? So we can handle your bill. See if there's anything else I want to address here. Let's see. There's a gentleman that's had a few comments that suggest that we double bill for things. We do not double bill. We charge per 1,000 gallons, as Meagan stated. If you use 3,999 gallons, we bill you for 3,000 gallons. The next month, what that extra gallon that goes on top of that 999, that will be your next one on the next month. So we do not double bill. I just want to get that misconception out of the way. The other thing is, and just, overall, finally, I do not get me wrong. This entire board wants to bring rates down overall, but bringing the amount of consumption that you're using on your property we got very low bearing on that, right? And we don't make rate structure changes in a vacuum, right? We know what the North Poudre water bill is that we have to pay every year. We've set these rates in conjunction with Raftalis, town staff, the resident roundtable, this board. And certainly we're going to be looking at, changes coming up this year. I don't want to have to increase rates anymore. And depending on, what comes back with the new North Poudre irrigation contract, it's entirely possible we may have some good news, but we can't give you guys good news until all that comes to fruition. So I would ask that everybody gives us some patience till the end of the year on that. And I think that's all I've got.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. I appreciate you guys putting that together for us, for the community, everybody online. Thank you for that. A couple other things that I wanted to touch on that I don't think got covered. HOAs, they cannot fine you for having a yellow lawn. We have watering restrictions in this town. They have to abide by those. They cannot override that. If they say they can, they're wrong. Other things, sprinklers. You'd be surprised how much water they actually use. Anywhere, let's say 6 to 16 gallons a minute comes out of a sprinkler head, depending on which sprinkler heads you have. So if we just take the middle of the road there, maybe a little on the low end, say 10 gallons per minute, and you have five sprinkler heads in one zone, okay? You times that automatically by 10, so that's 50. So every minute you're blowing 50 gallons of water on your lawn. Times that by a cycle if you're doing it for 15 minutes. And then you times that by, you probably have another zone. So let's do 10 heads. And for each month, just in that simple math, you're blowing $6,000 on your lawn, or 6,000 gallons, sorry. So it adds up quick. And a lot of us probably don't have the newer sprinkler heads. We're probably going to be up closer to that 13, 16 gallons per minute. If you have a pop-up head, almost guaranteed. And mostly those suckers leak unless you're checking them every year because those seals blow out on the bottom, right? And you're not going to see those leaks. That's just going into your lawn. You may see it going out on the sidewalk if you're lucky. So keep in mind that those sprinkler systems are going to be the biggest proponent of these usage rates. So keep that in mind. And if you have the sprinkler off, and just like Trustee Teets, mentioned earlier, how do you explain if they shut their water off, they still see an increase on their next bill? Wait until that next billing cycle, because it's about, let's just say it's about a month lag. Let's just say that. So by September's bill, they should show no usage if they shut off their water at their main and there's no leaks. Should show. So, we're here for you guys. We all live here. We're not trying to, I don't want to say a bad word, mess with any of you guys, mess with ourselves, mess with the town. We all want it to survive. We all want us to do the best we can. So please just keep that in mind. There's no changes we can make immediately because we do have to cover our cost of service. And that is the current contract that we have with North Booter that we currently don't really have any control over other than trying to negotiate and get it down. So also please remember that the person at the front counter of the town is a human. If you're mad, I get it. You can be mad, but please be respectful. I know it really hurts her heart. And just keep that in mind.
I'm sorry, I had just one more thing that I wanted to say. I had forgot to mention earlier, if I had a resident reach out to me earlier this evening and let me know that if there is anybody local that is looking into transitioning to a zeroscape, if you're needing assistance and guidance, CSU Extension Services has free at no cost design implementation that you can actually work with someone to handle some zeroscaping features in your yards that will actually assist in cutting that water usage over time. The other thing is I had sent over, I want to say 4 different grants that are available that this resident also sent to me who has extensive experience in these kind of areas, but there is possibility and it's not lost hope. There's a lot of things that can be done. I didn't realize we were giving direction in our recommendations or questions, but I would really truly like our board as a whole to hear what it would look like to have that quoted for the residential completely interactive part of the software where someone can actually, where our residents, if they don't have a lag, then they don't sit and wonder, they're like, okay, if I shut my sprinkler off now, I'm going to find out in 3 or 4 weeks the impacts. Well, 3 or 4 weeks, that's a lot of money used in water without the realization of what you're actually using in cost. So I think that that would be a huge assistance to look at, and it allows residents to take control of their own usage and know exactly what's going on. So that was it.
Fine, thank you. Mayor Pro Tem, you had one more thing you said?
I did just have one other thing, and Trustee Cannon, I would certainly love to join you if you end up putting something together where you want to meet with residents as far as that goes. I'd love to join you on that. I'd also encourage folks, if you'd like to email me directly, masonb@wellingtoncolorado.com. I'm happy to chat with you as far as that goes.
.gov.
.gov. I apologize for that. I know there's multiple residents in this room that watch me beat myself up over this literally every single night. So I do want folks to understand that, we're very aware of what's going on and we want to get this handled. So do encourage you, like I said, if you've got high usage, please reach out to the Municipal Services Building, myself, whoever that happens to be. You might even be able to convince me to come out to your property and take a look. I don't know how much advice I'll be, but.
Thank you. All right, that'll wrap up the presentation. Thank you guys very much. All right, so this next item is going to be public comment. Each individual wishing to speak will be given 3 minutes to speak. I would like to let you all know, if you have not been here before, it is public comment, not public question. Now, if you do want to pose questions, us at the board are not going to be answering them in this platform. I would request that when you sign in on the sheet, you write down your email, and we can reach out to you guys if those questions weren't answered in the presentation or so forth. Okay. I apologize. So those of you wishing to speak, and if you do have questions, we will do everything we can to answer them. It just will not be tonight. So once again, if you're going to speak, please put your email on that form there, and you'll be given 3 minutes. And time is now.
I'll be the first one. And there's no paper to put my email.
It's on the table behind you, and if you want to fill it out afterwards,
Okay.
by all means.
Okay. My name is Colleen McNaney. I won't give I live on Kitfox. If you speak into the microphone. I live on Kitfox Drive, and that is in Viewpoint subdivision. I am a very high usage water person. All of our lots are large lots. I have nearly an acre,
15 years ago, I xeriscaped my front yard. That cut my water bill in half, not in half, about $100 a month, which was huge back then. I would have loved to have a $500 water bill. Actually, that's what I budgeted for this year, was $500. 845 was my first, 1,000 was my second. My second one, I cut back. I can't cut back anymore. My sprinklers are off. My lawn is dead. Dead. It's extremely frustrating because of all the hours, the time, and the money over the last 24 years that I have put in. I have lived here my entire life. I ran a business here for 24 years. I am now considering moving, which breaks my heart because of the water bills. I'm embarrassed by my yard, and I would love for you to come look at it. My property value has dropped because of this. In my opinion, I don't have hard proof. But when you drive, not just in my neighborhood, but the entire town of Wellington, we as a whole look terrible, terrible. It's embarrassing. It's very embarrassing to me, who has always taken pride in my home and my yard and my town. I do understand you guys are working hard, and I appreciate that. And if we are able to come, we as a town are able to come to an agreement with North Pooter for the water, I would love to see it come down. I am never under tier 3. I'm never under tier 4. I'm always in tier 4. A couple years ago, I am using less than half than what I was a couple years ago, and my bill has more than doubled a couple years ago. So I appreciate your hard work in getting this. I do invite any of you guys to my house to come see my yard, and it's not just me. It's all my neighbors in the yard too. It looks terrible, terrible. So I appreciate you guys and your efforts in trying to get this resolved.
Would you state your name again, please?
Emily McNaney.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So my name is Ashley Daniels, and obviously this has been a problem for many years. We started renting out our previous residence, and we are still in Wellington, but my tenants are now like, we're getting $800 water bills. Like, this is insane. You know, and I'm like, I'm freaking out now because I'm like, I have a rental. Like, I can't cover a double mortgage if my tenants decide to leave. Like, how am I going to hold tenants if they're going to not be able to pay $800 water bills? So I have a client who he works for the city of Fort Collins Water. So I got him looking at all the statements and the spreadsheets of the hourly water usage. And I'm like, what is going on here? Like, and he was like, well, unfortunately, your statement is accurate. He was like, you didn't see the drop when you guys turned the sprinklers off because of the 2-month lag in the billing cycle. So I was like, okay, I guess that makes sense. Hopefully August is a better month then. But it was just, he taught me how to count the zones and the sprinkler heads and how to calculate that. And so he was like, you know, every time each sprinkler head puts out 1.5 gallons per minute, 90 gallons an hour. So he was calculating, he's like, every time your tenants turn that sprinkler system on, it's pumping out 2,000 gallons of water. And so I'm like, wonderful. So they water the lawn 10 times in 1 month, and they're already in tier 4. And we will be making some adjustments to the schedule because I think that will help. But, it's very concerning for our home values, like, we might feel like maybe we should move out of this town. Who's gonna wanna buy our house? I, I don't know. And after seeing some emails floating around last night about the history of this town and our finance directors quitting and why and all this stuff, it seems like there's some pretty shady stuff going on in this department. Um, and that is extremely concerning. There's documentation of deposits going missing, all sorts of weird stuff. I don't know. I guess I'm out of time, but
Thank you. I'm gonna touch on something there that was unrelated to the water. The news of an email being circulated by a former disgruntled employee, who was our finance director. That's all been proven wrong. The trustees hired a outside financial consulting firm to come in, last year. They went through, verified everything. There is nothing going on. The audit are a little behind because of the turnover of finance directors. So the 2022 and 2023 audits are currently being done. They're expected to be done by the end of this year, and then we'll be completely caught up. So there's the unfortunate things there. But I 100% will stand behind my town administrator, my finance director, and the work that the consulting firm did for us, that there is nothing shady going on. If you guys want to believe me, you can. If you don't, you don't have to, but those audits will be out at the end of the year and you guys can verify things for yourselves at that time. So that's one thing I wanted to address while the cat was out of the bag. And then I can't see the timer, so I'm just starting one on my phone. So you can talk until it beeps or I hit my gavel.
So my name is Kristen Ramirez and I also live in Viewpoint. So for the last 2 months, first month was an $800 bill and now I'm at $930. So I have not paid anything yet. So we're looking at almost $1,700 in water. I have completely, and we haven't really watered at all since summer started. I manually turn our valve on and off when I leave the house and when we're home using the water so that I know when we're home, there's nothing running. Unfortunately, there's been a lot of health issues as well in my family due to the condition of the water. And that's something that maybe also needs to be looked at, and I don't know to what extent. But we're dealing with major health issues. The doctors have confirmed that some of that stuff is due to the water, not necessarily drinking it, but just showering in it. So that has been a big issue in battling. Also too, the schools have been turned off with all of the water. I mean, again, another health issue that's very concerning to our kids. So at this point, I have gone to the town. They've given me a payment plan, but if I can't pay my current bill, how am I going to continue to keep paying $900 water bill when I've shut everything off? Also, I don't know why we're charging late fees and delinquent fees and all these fees on top of our current bills. If we're trying to do something and help our residents out, why are we charging delinquent fees? And to be honest, I mean, I don't know at this point, if you guys turn my water off, I guess that's what we're gonna have to deal with because I cannot afford to keep paying $900 a month for water. There's just no way. So, I mean, that's my mortgage payment at this point. So I don't know what the solution is. I don't know if there is a great solution. I know we're all in this together, but something. I mean, I feel like we haven't received really anything, and I know we're still working, with the Pooter irrigation on this, but Like everybody else said, we can't sell our house, we can't move, we can't do anything. We're tied right now at this point. I don't know what else to say other than I just think that there probably needs to be some kind of, I know not waiving a bill or anything like that, but hey, like I know 3 months maybe isn't gonna be enough to help out, but let's, whatever you can do at this point to help, I mean, us, and I'm gonna do whatever I can and make payments towards it, and that's all I can do. So.
Thank you.
Hi.
Hello.
I'm also in the Viewpoint subdivision. Gina Arbuthnot. I live kitty corner from Colleen, so you can come and look at my yard too. Last year, for this month, we used 27,000 gallons. My husband is not watering the backyard at all. This month it says we used 27,000 gallons. We've already been checked and I did send an email. I do agree with things that are hopefully in the future, hopefully sooner. I think we need to have the immediate access as consumers to be able to see on a daily basis or hourly basis. I can monitor it because like so many people here, we're on fixed incomes. I've been here since 1999. We have no backyard. We couldn't sell our house. Unfortunately, hearing what this lady said about the health with the water, my husband and I are already on the Camp Lejeune water, so we already have contaminated water. And now we've been here and I get sick because of that. But I have applied for the audit and our bill last month was $900 and some. This year again, and this month again, with my husband cutting out completely the backyard, which is gone, it's $500 and some, which is still a lot when you're on a fixed income. And the fact is, I have no backyard. So if I had a realtor come out to sell it, you know, it's not going to sell. And I just think that we need to, well, we probably should have already looked at getting alternate access earlier because this has been going on for a while. And I mean, like Colleen said, drive down Viewpoint, drive down any of those because unfortunately our developer sold our water rights to the town and now we have to keep repaying for those. So I'm just trying to, like with everyone else, just trying to figure out what we can do as consumers to be able to access. If we got smart meters, we should have the software. As consumers, we should be able to access that like we can with Excel or something else and check our hourly usage. We did get we were sent the hourly Excel spreadsheet when I sent the email to the town. And we could tell that we have no internal leaks. We're on the audit wait list to be able to check for the external for our stuff. But the fact goes that we need to, hopefully, if we get this contract with the North Pooter, that we will see relief sooner rather than later, like immediate. Don't wait for the next budget. That's all.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, can I grab, I didn't get her name at the start.
Yeah. Go for it, sir.
My name is Stephen Carmen. I live in the Meadows. As I've tracked community comments in recent days and also been involved with the city, there's reasonable concern about the significant difference between water rates in the town of Wellington and surrounding municipalities at the base rate, as well as the average water use tiers for those other municipalities that use tiers. Not all of them do. The town of Wellington is between 152 and 264% higher for the base rate and 118 to 265% higher for water use charges than surrounding municipalities. That being said, I understand that the town of Wellington is unique and independent from other municipalities. I also understand that the Board of Trustees must make decisions based on the unique needs, goals, and circumstances that it finds itself. Finally, I understand there may be limitations to what actions the Board of Trustees can take based on current agreements and/or state law. I participated in the Citizen Advisory Council in late 21 prior to the study that was conducted. The intent of that work was to find a reasonable and rational solution as a result of the negligence of previous town of Wellington leaders between 1992 and 2020, as you indicated yourselves in a recent statement that you published online. This roundtable pushed back hard on the original proposal from the town of Wellington to increase rates on day one. The bulk of that work was done by modeling hypothetical changes, and there was someone on staff, I don't remember his name, that built a fantastic spreadsheet, but it was hypothetical. Now that you have data, it's time to revisit. It's time to revisit the base rate. It's time to revisit the tiers. Either simplify the tiers from 4 to 1 or 4 to 3. And while I appreciate that the data that was shown previously shows that the bills match what was expected, they're still too high. So it needs to be revisited. I have several other questions which I had submitted online, but I want to just read a couple I know you can't answer. Is the increase in water rates in conjunction with the grants for the water plant expansion providing the finances that were expected? More or less? If more, what, if any, actions have been taken to reduce the water rates for the residents of Wellington? Thank you.
Thank you. That should be. Go for it.
Hello, my name is Chris Kleinsmith. I live over in the Meadows. I'm going to kind of keep this short and sweet as best I can. I think one of the primary concerns for a lot of us out there is this idea that we had this contract back in 1983 that was great for 30 years, and then suddenly it wasn't so great. And if you look at the paperwork that you provided and the statistics you provided, we see, between 2021 to 2024, a massive uptick. And I guess the question a lot of us have is, why was this not visited earlier? Why was this not addressed earlier? Now, you can't answer that question, but it is something that I think that people here would like to know. Everybody here is having their problems. I have some sympathy for the devil, I really do. But it's hard not to feel like there isn't some malfeasance when it's this negligent. It just isn't. And these rates they're absurd. They're just absurd. We're unfortunate. We're renters, right? So we have to have that lawn watered. We have to. We had to get a whole new yard put in because the last one died, right, from last summer. And that was on the summer when there was a lot of water. So we're paying outrageous amounts just to rent for the opportunity to live in Wellington, a place that we enjoy. It's a commuter town, but at this rate, I don't know how you can expect any growth. I don't know how you can expect anybody to move in here or do anything for that matter. I honestly don't even know how you can fix it. And I appreciate that you all have you have solutions for little things here and there. But guys, why did it take this long to address this? Why is there such a spike between 2 years ago and now? Those are the questions that we want answered. Those are the things that are important to us, because if you don't have an answer for it, what's going to happen down the line? And this idea that you're renegotiating contracts sounds great. How about some transparency with that? What is that contract? What does it mean? What are you saying and what are you doing? As much as you could provide would be wildly appreciated. Now, I sound a lot more angry than I actually am. I'm pretty relaxed about this, but sitting here tonight, just waiting for public comments and feeling like we're getting sandbagged because it's going to be difficult for you all to sit here and listen to us, is another point of frustration. And I get it. It's tough to be the target of a hard conversation. It's very difficult. But transparency is what we're looking for. And that's all I'm asking you to provide. Because if you don't, then I don't trust anything you're doing down the line. And I have no reason to. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Please keep clapping and applause down. I got to keep order in the room.
I've heard a lot of talk about the rates. By the way, my name's Chris Tank. I've heard a lot of talk about the rates and not a lot about the usage. And I don't want to critique that. I just want to offer some suggestions along with the town website. They have indoor and outdoor, you know, things you could follow, things you could do in your house to conserve water. The EPA has a website that you can go to, and they have suggestions. There's programs that they offer for conserving water. Another thing is everybody has irrigation systems, or a lot of people have irrigation systems. If you have one, make sure you're blowing it out every October, end of October or beginning of October. Because if you're leaving water in there, there's a good chance it's gonna freeze. And when that pipe freezes, it cracks. That's a leak. That could be in the valves. That could be, you know, where the spigot comes up, there's water there, it will freeze and it will crack that pipe if it expands enough, if you're not blowing out your lines. The other suggestion I have is if you suspect there's a water leak, you can't afford a plumber, turn off all your water in your house, go look at your water meter. If it's moving, that means there's water running. You may not be able to hear it.
Chris, sorry to interrupt you, but can
Yes,
you
sir.
please use your mic?
Yeah,
Just
sorry.
so the people at home can hear you.
So if you, I'll repeat that. If you suspect there's a leak and you can't afford a plumber, turn all your water off at the faucets, make sure there's no leaking toilets or anything like that. Go look at your meter. If it's still running, if it's still ticking away, then there's a leak. What's that? You can check your meters. You cannot alter or modify or anything like that. You can go out and look at your meter. I have a little cap on mine. It's a metal cap. It pulls right up and you can see the meter down there. And if it's a smart meter, it's going to have a digital gauge on it. If it's an analog meter, there generally is a little red dial along with an analog counter that shows the gallons per hour. So that's just my suggestion. And I wish you all the best in getting these water issues fixed. They're working on the rates. They're really stuck in between a rock and a hard place. And they can't, they're renegotiating, but what we have right now is what we have. And so solutions to conserve water is what we really should look at. Even if you're in an old house and you have a toilet that's 10, 15 years old, you can fill up a gallon of water and put it in the toilet, where the water is, and it will be, whatever, a gallon, 2 gallons less every flush. So there's things you can do.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Charles Cunningham, and I'm a new resident to Wellington. I have family who live up here. I have a younger brother who's in a wheelchair, and so he has physical disabilities and whatnot. In less than a year's worth of time being here in Wellington, I found out there's a large concern amongst a lot of us about the cost of water and everything. And because I live close to where the like the water kiosk is off of 6th Street and everything, I noticed people coming and filling up jugs of water. In November, December of this year, our water was cut off because somehow or another we had racked up $4,000 worth of water bill, which I thought was outrageous because after a quarter century or more of living in Fort Collins, renting a house, living in a house, living with roommates and whatnot, I've never ever seen a water bill this outrageous. When I first moved up here, my brother and I went to the water department and I tried addressing the issue of the bill. I paid my brother what would be a reasonable amount of money for 1 month's worth of service to be divided by 3 or 4 of us in the house and everything. I gave the lady my check. She took it, she stamped it, put it back, into the slot and said, "Well, you're still under shut-off protocol." And I said, "What does that actually mean?" She goes, "Well, your water's going to be shut off because either of non-payment or you've just run up such a large bill that we got to stop it." I addressed the lady at the counter when I paid my bill, what would be the issue on this? She said, you must have a water leak or in your basement or your irrigation system or your animals that you're feeding and everything. None of that we had. We have no sprinklers. We have no basement. And because we live close to an easement, there was nothing I could see around a half an acre's worth of property and house that was leaking water. They said you need to have a plumber come out and check to see if it's deep underground. We had a plumber come out. We had the toilets and everything fixed. They were leaking. They couldn't find the problem. When we asked for assistance from the city of Wellington Water, they'll come out and take a look at it. You know what they did? They came out and took a look at it and did nothing. And now we're still trying to pay off with a person who doesn't even have a job. I'm the only one working in our house for $4,000 worth of water that we can't possibly use in several months. And I don't have a solution. Thank you for listening to me. Thank you.
Charles, what was your last name again?
Cunningham?
Cunningham, thank you.
Hi, I'm a terrible public speaker, so if I sound a little bit nervous, that would be why. I'm just here to talk about usage. So we're tenants, same thing. We have bougie landlords and they will not let us let our grass die. But at the same time, they actually pay for a company to come and turn our sprinklers on every year, blow them out in the fall. This is our third year in the house. We moved in August of 2022. So our usage rate, granted, we don't set anything. The only thing we've done differently this year is actually shut off 50% of the water in the back because I'm actually was going to put sod in, but now I'm rethinking that. Anyways, that said, we're up almost 100% year to year. So when I went and looked at my rates, last year was 16,000 on average during the summer months. This year, 25 and 28,000 gallons. I'm just scratching my head. Like, we've had sprinkler companies out there. We've identified one slightly leaky head. Outside of that, like, and I actually did the calculations off the July bill, which was 25,000 versus last year July bill. I don't remember exactly how I did it, but anyways, it effectively, I would have been having about 60 gallons per minute coming out of that one sprinkler head or in just that zone extra to equate based off of, you know, our current like minutes and, you know, days of the week that we water. Anyways, it's just blows my mind that it's effectively doubled. But in going back and looking at, we moved in August, under 5,000, under 5,000, here comes October, 47,000 gallons. We had set it and forget it, auto bill pay. It's $400. Thank God that was in 2022. Had that been, you know, this year, November, 5,000, 6,000 gallons. That's our average, 5 to 6,000 when the sprinklers aren't on. I'm just like baffled. I know we didn't have a leak, pinky swear, promise. Like, you know, we have never had a plumber. I haven't damaged this house. 47,000 gallons, you know, I mean, 100%, almost 100% increase year to year with one identified leak. And I'm going to write in and get our hourly usage and kind of get to the bottom of this, because some people said, like, yeah, there's, you know, whoever did the math and it came out accurate. So we want to get a handle on it, but I have no explanation for 47,000 gallons. Yeah. And then it just magically fixed itself. Thank God.
And then could you state your name for me?
Yeah. Kimberly Miller.
Thank you.
Kimberly, what was your last name again?
Miller.
Miller. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Kendra Barrett and I live in the Knolls. I'm just as nervous as you are, Kimberly. First off, I want to thank everyone on our board for still choosing to be here. I know this issue's been an ongoing issue for a long time, not new to you, and you guys have
Crowd, please quiet up.
you have continued to choose to be here and try to fight for us. So I appreciate all of you for that. I know that this is it can be an emotional subject. Economically, it can be very burdensome to take on those kind of water bills. And I empathize with everyone who is dealing with this dilemma because it is a town that is dealing with this as a whole. I will say that I appreciate everyone who is trying to be conscientious about their water usage and to do the troubleshooting or, just be a responsible water user. And it's not an easy subject if you're not, if you don't have a background in being able to detect a leak or whatnot, it can be an infuriating ordeal to find it, but it's also costly. So I appreciate everyone who is putting forth the effort to be mindful of their water usage. I know that the town has put information on the website anticipating this. You guys have put out so much information out there already, trying to encourage people to be mindful of their water usage and to have resources available to us. And you're continuing to look for more resources for us. So I appreciate all of that. I appreciate all of the work you put into the presentation tonight. It was extremely educational and it was great information, I thought. So I thank you all so much for all the work you put into this for us. And I know that it doesn't feel like there's a light at the end of the tunnel yet, but I do have hope. And I know that you guys aren't giving up. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Go ahead.
My name is Emily McBlair. I just have a follow-up comment in regards to the gentleman in the plaid shirt who was talking about transparency. I would love to see current monthly financials of where our water bills are going. There's an estimated budget for 2024 on the Town of Wellington website, but there's nothing further. If we're gonna be paying 200% more than our community members in Fort Collins, Loveland, et cetera, I wanna see where that money is going. I wanna know that my bills are going towards the water fund, towards this lease, the financials. Looking at the estimated, I have some questions about that budget too. Looking at it, there's 2 wages and salary line items. One of them, the number almost doubles from 2022 to 2023, yet the staff numbers stay the same. What's going on? I want to know where our money's going. That's all.
Thank you. Go for it.
Ready? My name is James Raymond. I live in Buffalo Creek. I've been a resident in Wellington for the past 12 years. And like everybody else, I've seen significant doubling in water rates despite my efforts to reduce water usage. Like many other residents, I continue to feel the financial burden on the rising cost. Today, I stand before you not as an individual concerned about my impact on my household, but as a voice for the broader community. This water crisis is not a personal issue. It affects all of us in Wellington. I respectfully ask the board what concrete steps are being taken to address this issue. And when can we expect meaningful action rather than further delays? The water plant treatment expansion should be complete. Can we review current water tier structures and increase the water gallons between the tiers? It's time for accountability. I stand in front of you and formally request the resignation of the current mayor of Wellington and the town administrator due to their failure to effectively address the ongoing water issues that have severely impacted the residents of Wellington. It is clear that the leadership plays a critical role in successful management and resolution of such critical issues. However, current administration has demonstrated the inability to manage the situation to the standard that the citizens of Wellington deserve. I would like to draw your attention to 2 recent examples of high-profile leaders who recognize the importance of responsibility of their organization's failures. David Calhoun, formerly the CEO of Boeing, and Kimberly Chattel, the former director of the United States Secret Service. Both have stepped down from their positions early this year after their respective organizations failed to perform their duties correctly. As head of their respective entities, they understand that the resignations were necessary to uphold the integrity and accountability of their institutions. In the light of the ongoing crisis in Wellington, it is apparent that the similar accountability should be expected from the town's leadership. Therefore, I respectfully request for the mayor of Wellington and the town administrator to resign from their position. This action will be a necessary step towards ensuring that our town is governed by leaders who prioritize the well-being and the trust of the constituents. I hope you will consider my request with the seriousness it deserves. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And then James, did you put your email down there so you get your questions answered?
Oh, yeah, I will. Yeah,
Thank
I
you.
will. Thank you.
My name is Trevor Daniels. We've lived here since 2013. The water bills really haven't been astronomical from what I remember since just a year or two ago that we really noticed it. I guess, yeah, kind of like my wife was saying, our tenants were just saying how they can't swing $800 to $900 in water a month. However, we did realize kind of what we can do, maybe zero escape or something like that. So we'll look into that. But I don't know, the fact that the tier prices are just going to be higher up to 2028, like 5% a year or whatever. I just don't, I mean, I get that you guys have a quota that you're trying to reach for what you're trying to do. I just don't see how that's sustainable for the people that live here. You know, if people are already complaining, saying, holy crap, like I can't pay this already. So I don't know the solution for that. But I don't know, it just seems like it's already hard for people now. I guess it would be a matter of seeing what people can do to bring down water consumption. But I don't know, it does kind of seem like some of the water meter reading is kind of sporadic. We do know a couple people that like their water bill is the same every month. And it's like lower than the base rate. I'm not going to say who it is, but.
Can I quickly address that?
No.
No, okay, no problem, no problem. That's cool.
So, and I mean, I don't know, and it could be the antiquated meters, I have no idea. But there is kind of some weird spotty stuff that we've heard, but I don't know. I mean so the only thing I would think with zero escaping, if that kind of sounds like you guys are saying that's probably the way to go. I know people are saying their HOAs don't allow it, but it kind of seems like they're just going to have to accept that. I don't know. I don't really have anything else.
Thank you. Public comment. Going once. Going twice. Sold. Okay. Thank you, everybody, for your comments. Thank you for being here. If you want to hang out for the rest of the meeting, we're going to go over some good stuff. All right. Take a 5-minute recess.
Patti,
Yeah, perfect. Great. Mr. Clerk, may I get a roll call?
Trustee Cannon.
Here.
Trustee Moyer.
Here.
Trustee Daly.
Present.
Trustee Wiegand.
Here.
Trustee Teets.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Mason.
Here.
Mayor Shosse.
Here.
Thank you. We have a quorum.
Okay. So I'm gonna open up the regular meeting of the Board of Trustees, time being 6:41 PM, reopen it. And then I'm going to immediately close it. Close the regular meeting to open the Liquor License Authority Board, time being 6:41 PM. 8:41 PM. Been a long night. Thank you for your grace and forgiveness. Mr. Clerk, can I get a roll call? Sorry, I did that backwards.
Trustee Daly.
Present.
Trustee Moyer.
Present.
Trustee Cannon.
Here.
Trustee Teets.
Here.
Trustee Wiegand.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Mason.
Here.
Mayor Shosse.
Here.
Thank you. We still have a quorum.
Thank you. Mr. Clerk, can you please read the title for item C1 and also present?
License renewal, KLC2 LLC, doing business as Wellington Manor Entertainment City license. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Board of Trustees, Ethan Moose, your town clerk. Oh,
Mayor Chelsea, I have a conflict. I have an interest in the item C1, so I recused myself at this time.
Thank you, sir. Wait one moment. All right, please proceed.
Wellington Manor submitted their annual renewal for a lodging and entertainment, which is transitioning to an entertainment type license effective in August of this year. A review of the application found that the establishment's in good standing with the Colorado Secretary of State. They have a valid sales tax license, and it favorably completed a premise inspection from Larimer County Sheriff's Office. The applicant has an inspection with Wellington Fire Protection District Fire Marshal pending for a temporary structure on the premise. As of earlier last week, the inspection was still pending, and I believe it is still today as well. We recommend that the license renewal be provisionally approved pending a staff verification that inspection was favorably completed. The motion for that you can find in your packet. I'm happy to take any questions you might have.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Any questions from the board on this? Trustee Teets.
Yes, so I'm actually excited to see you guys reapplying. I didn't think that I would say that I'm excited to see liquor licensing applying, but it means that we have businesses that are still operating here in town. My question stems from an explanation. So an entertainment facility, it says provide with public sports and entertainment activities. So do you have like a definition of what you guys are doing as far as entertainment facility?
Trustee Teets, maybe I can answer that question actually with the state statute definitions of an entertainment facility. And it's the entertainment is sports, but also under that category is a spa. And so the conduct at Wellington Manor is a spa with a liquor license. So it's specifically, it's spelled out there in the statutes that spa activities are entertainment. So that's why it fits into that one. It's a relatively new liquor license category in the last few years, and it's kind of separating out the state is making a lot of changes to liquor licenses. So I think this one was a relatively new change, and they fit perfectly into that definition for entertainment.
That was my only question related to this, was the change in the type of application.
Thank you. Trustee Moore.
No questions.
Thank you. Trustee Wiegand.
No question.
Trustee Daly.
None.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Congratulations on 3 years.
No questions. I just don't understand how a spa is a sport, but I'll take it. No, bought a lot of gift cards to it. Happy wife, happy life. Any comments from the public on this item? No. All right. Does the board wish to deliberate any further? No. Do I hear a motion on this item?
I'll make a motion to provisionally approve the KLC2 Liquor LLC doing business as Wellington Manor Entertainment Liquor License Renewal application pending verification by the town staff that the applicant favorably completed a fire marshal inspection of the temporary tent structure on the applicant's premises.
Second.
Wow, you're good. Mr. Clerk, make it a roll call, please.
Excuse me, Mayor Pro Tem Mason,
Yes.
Trustee Daly.
Yes.
Trustee Moyer,
Yes.
Trustee Teets,
Yes.
Trustee Wiegand,
Yes.
Mayor Shosse.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion carries unanimously and the application renewal is approved.
Thank you.
Provisionally.
After, I've never dealt with this before. Do I need to do another roll call now that Trustee Cannon's back? Okay, thank you. Mr. Clerk, will you please read the title for item C2?
License renewal Honglu Investments LLC doing business as Papa's Table Beer and Wine City License. Good evening again, Mr. Mayor and Board. Honglu Investments doing business as Papa's Table has submitted their annual renewal for a beer and wine city license. I reviewed the application, found the establishment is in good standing with the Colorado Secretary of State, that they have a valid sales tax license, and that they have favorably completed a premise inspection by the Larimer County Sheriff's Office. We recommend the approval of this renewal.
Thank you, sir. Any questions from the board on this item? Going down the row. Going down the row. Okay. Public comment on this item? No. All right. Do I hear a motion on this item?
I make a motion to approve the Honglu Investment LLC doing business as Papa's Tables, Beer and Wine, City Liquor License Renewal Application.
Second.
Mr. Clerk, may I get a roll call, please?
Trustee Wiegand,
Yes.
Trustee Moyer,
Yes.
Trustee Daly,
Yes.
Trustee Teets,
Yes.
Trustee Cannon,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Mason,
Yes.
Mayor Shosse.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion carries unanimously and the application renewal is approved.
Thank you. Mr. Clerk, will you please read the title for item C3?
License renewal El Mezcal Inc. doing business as Sol de Jalisco Mexican Restaurant, Hotel and Restaurant City License. The applicant has submitted their annual renewal for the Hotel and Restaurant City License. Review of the application found the establishments in good standing again with the Colorado Secretary of State, that they have a valid sales tax license, and they favorably completed a premise inspection. We recommend approval of this renewal application.
Thank you, sir. Any comments, questions from the board? Comments, questions from the board? All right. Any public comment on this item? No. Okay. Do I hear a motion on this item?
Mayor, I move to approve the El Mezcal Incorporated doing business as Sol de Jalisco Mexican Restaurant, Hotel and Restaurant City Liquor License Renewal.
Section.
Mr. Clerk, make it a roll call, please.
Trustee Cannon,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Mason,
Yes.
Trustee Teets,
Yes.
Trustee Wiegand,
Yes.
Trustee Moyer,
Yes.
Trustee Daly,
Yes.
Mayor Shosse. Thank you. The motion carries unanimously and the renewal application is approved.
Thank you, sir. I will now close the Liquor License Authority Board and reopen the regular meeting, time being 8:49 p.m. All right, first item on the list, we'll have Ms. Garcia, the Town Administrator, presenting on grant guidelines and application.
Depending how this goes, Patti Garcia, Town Administrator, we can push this off to another meeting if you feel like there needs to be a lot of discussion about this, because I know there's some agenda items that we need to get to. But essentially, this is letting you know that we've been working on creating some guidelines and an application for individuals or 501c3 nonprofits that would be requesting funds from the board discretionary fund. This was a request based on some feedback I had received from trustees in the past. I did research other municipalities of similar sizes to see, what their application looked like, what were the requirements. So this falls into line with similar to Erie, Windsor, some of the others that are, like I said, in our region and like sized, the town of Meade. So some have, so one of the questions that I had was the maximum amount that could be requested by a nonprofit group. I currently have it set at $2,500. Some have it as low as 500, some have it as high as 5,000 or 10,000. But, that was one of the decisions that I felt like the trustees needed to make related to the application and the guidelines. So I'm ready to hear some feedback if y'all have any. Like I said, if we feel like there's going to be a lot of discussion about this, I'm happy to bring this back at another meeting because it's not time sensitive.
Okay. Trustee Moore.
Thank you for putting this together. As I was reading through the application, every comment that I was like, oh, what about this? It was addressed later. So I really appreciate that. It's simple. It's not cumbersome. It provides an opportunity for us to collect impact of the dollars. I would be okay with seeing it go up to 5,000, but that's not necessary. I just appreciate the quick action on this. Thank you.
Trustee Teets.
Patty, can you remind me, is it 10,000 or 20,000 for the board discretionary fund?
There's actually $30,000 in that fund. That's what gets budgeted. That's what was budgeted this past year. $10,000 of it has gone to the Community Services Center. And then there was $500 that went to and I can't remember the name of the barbecue, but the one that Karen Eifert is supporting.
Got it. And then did we move some funds as far as the seniors as
Not
well?
yet. They have not needed that yet this year. We will be looking at a budget adjustment, well, not a budget adjustment, but a change in the budget for 2025 to meet their needs.
That's
okay.
My question. So no, I'm one of the ones that requested this, so I think it's fantastic. I know you guys have had pressing matters that have taken precedent over preparing something like this, but it was one of my requests when I had first come on as a trustee was having just a standard guideline of what the expectations were, how it was laid out, and how we were going to fund it. I'd be comfortable leaving it at the 2,500 just so possibly we can impact more people that would come and find out from a nonprofit agency. I'm open to discussing as far as amount goes with what we end up investing, but other than that, I'm in absolute support of this and it's laid out very well.
Thank you.
The other question, we don't fund anything like alcohol related. We will not provide money to purchase. That's it.
Okay, thank you. And to clarify, you'd be comfortable for discussions to do more than 2,500, but you prefer 2,500?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Trustee Meagan.
Love what you've done here. $2,500 seems like a good level to start with. We can always adjust it down the road if the need happens or if we do see need. But I think you've done a great job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Trustee Cannon.
Thank you. I'm one of those that would have pushed this down the road a little bit because you're right, it's not time sensitive and we have a pretty full agenda still ahead of us here. But thank you for the work that you've done. We're not moving on this today. You just want to take our comments. I have no problems with how it's formatted, but I would like to have a deeper discussion about that when it comes time to passage.
Okay.
Thank you.
So you would want that on a regular agenda, not on consent?
Yes.
Okay.
Trustee Daly.
I appreciate it. That says first come, first serve, and also there potentially could be a cap for the year based on our budgeted amount, so we wouldn't have to amend this on a yearly basis. So I appreciate it. It all looks very thorough and not cumbersome to participate with, which I didn't want to make it really hard to ask for money. So I appreciate it. I think it looks great as is.
Are you comfortable with the 2,500?
Yeah, sure.
Thank you.
Member Tim.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Really appreciate the work on this, Patty. I think this is great. We've not had a really good application process and guidelines for board discretionary funds before, so I think this is a great place to start. I was actually going to wait for Trustee Moyer to ask the hard-hitting questions, being our grant writing expert here, but the only thing I've got is I think I would like to see the cap be more than 2,500, considering that we did give the community services center 10,000 for the elevator. I think I would like to see that number increased a bit, but you know, if the board wants to settle on 2,500, I'm fine with that too. So.
Thank you. Thank you for putting this together. Totally good with 2,500. Would be open to raising that if need be.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, and I did not know we were going to have these water issues that was scheduled, so sorry.
You're fine. You're fine. I'm making adjustments later on here. All right, Mr. Clerk, will you please read the title for items on the consent agenda?
July 23, 2024 regular meeting minutes.
Do I hear a motion?
Move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Thank you. Mr. Clerk, make it a roll call, please.
Trustee Cannon,
Yes.
trustee Teets,
Yes.
trustee Daly,
Yes.
trustee Wiegand,
Yes.
trustee Moyer,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Mason,
Yes.
Mayor Shosse.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion carries unanimously and the consent agenda is approved.
Thank you, sir. All right, Mr. Clerk, will you please read the title for item F1?
Resolution number 39-2024, approving an agreement between East Larimer County Water District ELCO and Town of Wellington for water service to a portion of Sage Farms annexation.
Thank you. And then we have Mr. Dan Sapienza, the town attorney, and then Mr. Cody Bird presenting. Gentlemen?
I'm sure I'll be leaning on Mr. Byrd a number of times during this. Members of the board, Dan Sapienza, town attorney. We're here for a resolution regarding the Sage Farms annexation. This property was annexed earlier this year. On the screen and in the PowerPoints you were presented, I wanted to give kind of some context on the location of this. This is the entire Sage Farms annexation that you can see here, shaded in blue and red. What we're talking about tonight with this exclusion from ELCO is just the blue portion of this. That's the southern portion of the Sage Farms annexation. It's half of that. So you know the other half of the Sage Farms annexation, the water is provided by Northern Water. That's a totally separate process. We're just not talking about that part today. Tonight, what's in front of you is we're dealing with ELCO, the Eastern Larimer County Water District. It's a special district. Half of the Sage Farms annexation is currently located within the ELCO district boundaries. To exclude that land from the ELCO district boundaries, there's a certain statutory process. When the town annexed this land, it signed an annexation agreement. Part of that whole process and consideration of that was that the town would be providing potable water to this land as it develops. There's no plan yet. This is a mix of residential and commercial property, but when it is developed, it's part of both the plan of the developer and the plan of the town with our water services to provide this water. So if the town is to provide water in that blue shaded area, which is currently part of the ELCO special district, it needs to be removed from the ELCO district boundaries. As we're talking about this today, there's another little caveat, a little special condition on this land. On the map here, there's a green shaded area. It's an existing user. So in all of this half of the Sage Farms annexation, there is one existing user. I believe it's got 2 water taps that are currently served by ELCO. As we refer to that, we'll refer to that as the legacy user. That area is being excluded from the ELCO district boundaries, but it's being handled a little differently, and we'll talk about that with the plan. The statutory process for excluding land from a special district that's within a municipality requires us to go to district court. Sometimes this can be a adversarial process where the town annexes some land and then tells a special district, you need to back off. What's happening here, though, we're working very closely with the developer and ELCO in this process. So the petition that's in front of you, the contract that's in the packet, and the resolution, we've already discussed all of this with ELCO, and ELCO's done this a number of times. One benefit for us with that is in terms of legal fees and dealing with the district court, this is kind of a boilerplate sort of situation. There's a lot of forms, we'll show up to court, it should be relatively fast. And especially everybody being in agreement, the court process should be relatively straightforward. What we'll do, or the plan, if the board approves of this, is we'll petition the district court to exclude these property from the boundaries. We'll have to have a hearing. At that hearing, the court will look at, 1, has the town agreed to take on this service? And that's the resolution that's in front of you tonight. Number 2, the court will look at whether there is a plan to continue service of the special district services within that excluded area. So the special district provides water service, potable water service. So The plan is the contract that you have. And this is really the transition plan for how water service will go from the ELCO special district to the town. That legacy user, that one little property that I talked about on there, that's kind of the one little hiccup in this. It would be really easy if there were no users, ELCO users within this area, because that plan would simply be the town will do it because ELCO's never done it. However, because there is that existing user, what we're negotiating with, or what we've agreed upon with ELCO, is ELCO will continue to serve that property on a contract basis, even though it's outside of their water district boundaries, until such time as that user requests or is required to get water from the town. And now there's a couple situations where that user might need to move over to town water. One is if they ask for water taps in the town of Wellington. Why would they do that? If they want to redevelop that property, they're going to need to use Wellington water. Also, they're currently on a septic system. If they want to move over to the town's wastewater system, part of the condition for that is they'll also need to move over to the town's water system. But until such time as they move over to the town's water system, that property will continue to be served by ELCO. All of the other property, as it gets developed, which is, as we've talked about, there's a long series of steps between now and actually building anything out there, a number of development agreements and everything else that we'll need to bring forward. But as that property gets developed, as the infrastructure gets built to connect to our water system, all of that land, all of those properties the town will service that. That ELCO district, that legacy user will continue to stand out there until that portion of the parcel needs to be redeveloped. ELCO will maintain the lines for that legacy user, but they're not allowed to add any additional taps, so they can't expand service without the written permission of the town. So really, they're kind of caged in, and ELCO is agreeing that this is now within the town boundaries, and this should be town service. The resolution that's in front of you, again, this is the resolution that we are required to do to start this court process. So resolution says the town will take on the service that ELCO is currently providing. Two, it supports the filing of a joint petition, and we've included in the packet that joint petition that we've been drafting. I would say that petition is probably in 99% there stage. When we just had some additions to it today, and I do apologize. This item was amended. Packet item was just amended today because lawyers love to wait until the deadline, and so I was actually getting red lines this afternoon on an item here. But that petition will be filed with the court, and that's the resolution supports that. And third, it authorizes, I should have started, authorize the execution of that contract. So what that contract will do is that's the plan we submit to the town, and ELCO is putting that on their board agenda later this month. This is, I just want to show this real quick. It's there was a packet amendment today. This was the only significant change in there, other than a couple typos were fixed. And ELCO wanted to make sure that in the contract, it was clear that no facilities were being transferred from the town. Basically, the town will put in its own water system once we get to that point, and ELCO's water system and all of its infrastructure will not be transferred to the town. So this is one minor change that was in there, but this was a change that happened today, so I wanted to highlight this red line. I'd stand for any questions, and certainly if you have questions about the annexation process, and I think Mr. Roberson's here, who's the developer for Sage Farms. This is an important next step in that development process, and also Cody's here, who I know who can answer a lot of questions as well.
All right, thank you. Trustee Teets.
I thank you for answering my questions as quickly as you did this afternoon. I sent over questions at 4 o'clock. I made sure to include our entire board in those so they could see kind of where my thought process was with some of this. I just want to re-verify this is for potable, not non-pot water.
This is for treated water. That's
Perfect.
absolutely right.
No, so all of my questions were answered. I'm grateful because kudos to you. I did send them at the last minute and then got notification that we had changed some things kind of when I was on my way over here. So no, I'm grateful. I'm looking forward to seeing how this process goes. The only thing to note is in there, it says that, the costs incurred for the court proceedings will be an invoice to the developer of the property, but it doesn't include the petition. So we are a town, as a town, are covering the petition side of it, or?
This is, the petition has been drafted, was actually drafted largely by ELCO.
Okay, so,
That's one of the benefits of doing this as a non-adversarial process, is ELCO actually came to the table and said, we've done this a lot. And they were able to provide a lot of these documents and we were able to work off of those. So we have used my time working on this, absolutely, but we were able to save a ton of time by working on it in conjunction with ELCO and the developer, so.
perfect. So then it's just court proceedings is what will be billed?
Yep.
Awesome. That's part of the agreement that we have, that development pays its own way. So I'm grateful for that.
I know, and since a lot of the discussion this evening was related to water, I would like to address real quick the questions you had earlier about why this is only treated water. This was discussed a lot during the annexation proceedings, but Sage Farms, both halves of it, are currently farm agriculture, and it's being fed by, there's wells on the site. And so those wells are going to be used for the non-pot systems to treat the irrigation for those areas. So just something important to note. And so, but it was a great question you had. So, and thanks for bringing that to me before the meeting.
Right, which is kudos for the residents that do look at purchasing there, because it will assist in keeping those water costs decreased.
Thank you. Some more. Trustee Cannon.
Couple of questions. This legacy user, they're within the town boundaries, correct? I mean, they were annexed in.
Absolutely. The
Okay.
legacy user was on the previous map there. Oops. There is another user that's on the other side. It's on the northern part that wasn't annexed, and there's another, but that legacy user, yes, was annexed within the town.
Okay. Secondly, you were talking about, a user, wanting to get on the town system, but you alluded to the town may require them to be on there, but you didn't elaborate on the conditions that would cause the town to require them to.
One of those conditions would be if the user, as I said, they're currently on a septic system. So if they want to move over to the town's wastewater, they would be also required to connect to the town's water system. Another situation is if they want to, this is now annexed within the town, so it's subject to all of the town's development and land use code. And so if they want to subdivide that parcel for any use, that would certainly be an occasion where a development agreement would need to be entered into, and they'd need to be on town water.
Is this legacy user, is that where they had a little orchard growing there? Was that property?
No,
Oh, that was further north, right?
no, further south. Further south where you're.
No,
I think I can answer the question to
Oh,
Trustee Cannon.
yeah.
There were some trees and plants staged in front of the Blue Barn, as everyone kind of affectionately calls it. That's further north in Sage Meadows subdivision.
Okay.
So hope that answers the location question.
That answers the use of the land currently. The other.
Well,
the
that-
reason,
that
the reason.
property- I'm
the
sorry,
reason-
can I clarify real quick? Because I want to make sure I didn't make that more confusing, but the property with the Blue Barn and the vegetation is in Sage Meadows subdivision. The current use of the legacy parcel, it has the silo, the white barns, the outbuildings, the ag equipment on it, and it's currently used for agricultural purposes.
Okay. So the reason I'm asking the questions is that, if you drive through the town, you'll see little islands, it seems like, enclaves of people who said, no, I'm not going to be annexed. No, I'm not going to move my property line. No, I'm not going to do this. Even this subdivision in that southwest corner, there's a large property there where it was excluded from the annexation agreement, and I'm the kind of person that likes everything kind of uniform. When you're driving down the street and you got a fence line, all of a sudden you got a house that sticks out, 20 feet, because the town let them get away with it as opposed to, complying with the easements and fence lines and so forth. So I just my questions were all about, are we making an excuse for somebody here, to some degree? Was it even?
Yeah, I think that'd be a good question for Darren.
Well, and
Or-
I think that's great, but I want to also address the question in a general sense as well. It was definitely discussed at length. One of the policies of the town and that this board has set is that we don't annex property unless the owner comes and requests it. And at the time of annexation, the parcels that were separated were under different ownership and were not requesting annexation. So staff didn't have the authority to pull them in against their will. But what we did do instead was require through the development review process, in laying out a master plan for development of this overall property, to ensure that there was a logical and progressive path for how to provide town services for future redevelopment of those parcels in an integrated and cohesive manner, so that we don't end up with islands and existing legacy users when the areas are redeveloping. So we definitely thought ahead and provided a path for when those areas redevelop, we'll be able to easily integrate them into the overall urban fabric.
How big is this parcel for the lake city? 3.7 acres. So the likelihood of this 3.7 acres going through development and matching in any way remotely possible the rest of the development around that is pretty slim.
I'd say it's extremely high, and most likely it would be redeveloped as a residential cul-de-sac, which we've already conceptually laid out to ensure that there was space to do so. It was 9 lots, I think, on a eight or nine lots on a cul-de-sac, consistent with the residential character surrounding it, conceptualized. Obviously, at some point, development patterns can change as we get further refined on infrastructure extension, lot sizes, marketability, and things like that. But it's extremely likely that would be able to easily integrate into the overall development plan.
Yeah, I think my concern that has been that I've worked with organizations that carve out pieces here, and it becomes a juggling act to, to keep them all lined out, and everything seems logical, and the infrastructure flows, and it's integrated and it works together. I would prefer not to have pockets of isolation within the time limits that answer to different entities than the town.
We agree with you, and they would, because it is annexed, they're subject to all the same rules as the town has. So for for future changes, would have to comply with town development standards.
Yeah, but I understand completely the ELCO exchange and how special districts work, and I thought you did a great job of explaining that. My concern was that we're losing a little continuity.
Well, let me point out also, we originally went to ELCO before we petitioned this to be annexed, and we thought we were doing the right process and paid the $500. Then they found out how big of a project this was and said, hey, stop, we need to do it a different way after we were already annexed. And I don't think we could have petitioned until we were annexed, if I'm correct. So one thing though, in all the negotiations over the last 4 or 5 years on this farm and holding it back, and Cody was an impact with me talking to the landowner, we said you absolutely have to annex this 3.7 acres. Now, in the contract I have with the farmer, I need to plat that 3.7 acres and give it back to him, and he's going to own it. But we said you absolutely have to be annexed into the town of Wellington. That way, there's no pockets or everything's straight lines and to the roads. I don't want that project. He knows it, but he needs it for his farming operations to continue. So we're allowing that. We're also going to allow out the plat that you guys will hopefully approve someday that will show that we'll have roads going into that 3.7 acres, so that eventually someday it probably will be annexed or platted into 8 or 9 lots or something. And he knows and he's aware that he has to go by the town's guidelines.
Thank you.
So, and Cody had an impact on that. So.
Thank you. Trustee Meagan.
Appreciate the hard work you guys been doing and the forward thinking about that. And so glad that there is wells out there. So the impact to our water supply is going to be minimal for what we're going to be gaining from that addition. So I think it's going to be a very beneficial thing for our town. So thank you, guys.
Trustee Daly.
No questions. Thank you as always.
Pro Tem. Thank you. Great presentation. Thank you very much. Any comments from the public on this item? No. Okay. Would the board like to deliberate any further?
I don't want to deliberate, but I just want to make a comment related to the question. When I ran for trustee, I actually was able to meet the Sipes family and get to experience what they're actually doing with that 3.7 acres. So most of the farming that you see go on in this community and the tractors running around, this gentleman actually farms most of the farmland around these areas. That's what his business is he actually farms for other farmers. So I thought it was super unique that you guys were able to get to a point where we got to keep a little piece of Wellington remaining, because he's pretty much one of the last contract farmers in this area with that 3.7 acres. So that was kind of one of those things that I thought it was fantastic. Do I think that it will remain forever? No. As I see percentages of farmland selling in this area and going for development, I don't think it'll be there for an extended period of time. I appreciate the platting that you did, because you could see that there was a vision after that. But that family was a heritage family in this area and it has farmed this community for an extended period of time. I was very happy to see that he could continue operating his business while moving forward and bringing additional income and CIP funds into the project scope. So I'm grateful. And I had a chance before I even became a trustee to get to meet this family and hear about what their goals and aims were for it. So thank you.
Thank you for that, Trustee Teets. All right. Do I hear a motion on this item?
So are we doing the one item right now, or is it, I apologize, but
It's one resolution that accomplishes all of the things. So
Okay.
in the resolution, it says that we'll take on the service. It says that it authorizes filing the petition for the court action, and it authorizes execution of the contract. So it's one resolution that does everything.
For the red line items, do we need to include modification clause or it's?
The red line items are included in the kind of the final packet version. So
Okay, great.
just the resolution as in the packet. I will note that the resolution in the packet says that it was adopted August 9th. And so before we sign it, we'll just change the date to August 13th. So but otherwise adopt the resolution with no amendments.
I move to adopt resolution number 39-2024, approving an agreement between East Larimer County Water District, ELCO, and the town of Wellington for water services to a portion of Sage Farm annexation.
Thank you.
Second.
Mr. Clerk, make it a roll call, please.
Trustee Teets,
Yes.
Trustee Daly.
Yes.
Trustee Moyer,
Yes.
Trustee Cannon,
Yes.
Trustee Wiegand,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Mason,
Yes.
Mayor Shosse.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion carries unanimously and the resolution is approved.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Mayor, based on what time it is, and there's several other agenda items, I know the one item that has to be heard tonight is the election item. I'm not sure what the Board of Trustees, what the direction you want to go, but Dan and I are both available to move our items
Okay.
to the next meeting to August 27th. There's room on the agenda for that.
Perfect.
So just
Yeah.
looking for some direction.
So I was gonna plan on a motion to postpone the ordinances, the ordinance for the model traffic code, and postpone amending the code, and also the resolution for that. So if we want to do it in all one fell swoop, we can do also our strategic plan. So somebody want a motion for that?
I thought you said motion, so I'll second.
Perfect. Do I need to say it all?
Just want to understand exactly what.
Okay,
you're
I will
trying to
say
do,
it
Mr.
very
Mayor.
clear. I would like to motion to postpone the resolution of the Board of Trustees, Town of Wellington adopting their strategic plan, the ordinance for the model traffic code update, the ordinance amending the town municipal code regarding rules of parliamentary procedure, and a resolution adopting the rules of the Order of the Town of Wellington Board of Trustees to the date of, what was that?
August the 27th.
August 27th. That's
Second.
perfect. Mr. Clerk, make it a roll call, please.
Mayor Shosse,
Yes.
Trustee Daly,
Yes.
Trustee Cannon,
Yes.
Trustee Wiegand,
Yes.
Trustee Moyer,
Yes.
Trustee Teets,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Mason.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion carries unanimously and items F2, F3, F4, and F5 are postponed to the August 27th regular meeting.
Thank you, sir. All right. Mr. Clerk, will you please read the title for item F6?
Resolution number 42-2024, a resolution scheduling a special election to refer a ballot question regarding the date of regular elections and an extension of the terms of sitting trustees on the Town of Wellington's Board of Trustees to the electors of the town at the coordinated November 5, 2024 general election.
Thank you. And then Mr. Moose will present. We will give you a second to get to the podium. Slow is smooth, smooth is fast.
Okay, good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the board, Ethan Moose, your town clerk. It's a pleasure to be with you this evening. I'm going to present to you the item as I've titled previously or recently mentioned. This resolution was drafted following the guidance the board gave me at the regular election report that we discussed at a work session earlier this year. This resolution effectively moves forward with scheduling a special election that would allow the town's voters to consider whether or not they would like to change the date of regular election in the town of Wellington that is statutorily required normally in April of even-numbered years to be moved to November of even-numbered years. In effect, this item would be the first step on that journey. There will be several more steps that will occur throughout the course of scheduling a special election. What I do want to point out as it relates to the resolution that's drafted and before you today, there are three specific things that it does. The first is the scheduling of that election, which would, the special election, which will occur November the 5th, coordinated with the Larimer County general election. During that election, the voters of Wellington would receive a ballot from Larimer County that has a measure for the town of Wellington that has a title and question that are listed on the resolution, which is in your packet. And I'm just going to go ahead and read that for clarity's sake. The ballot title would be considering a change in the date of regular elections of the town of Wellington, Colorado to the first Tuesday succeeding the first Monday of November in each even-numbered year, and considering an extension to the terms of sitting trustees of the town of Wellington's Board of Trustees with respect thereto. The question then to be posed to the voters is, shall the town of Wellington's regular elections be changed from the first Tuesday of even-numbered years to the first Tuesday succeeding the first Monday of November in each even-numbered year, with the first of such elections beginning in November 2026? And shall the terms of sitting trustees whose terms would expire in April of 2026 be extended through the completion of such election proceedings? And there's a lot of words there. Effectively, what this would allow the town to do is, the electors to do is consider the change of the regular election date. Moving the regular election date from April to November in an even-numbered year has implications that we've previously discussed. If you'd like me to go over those or discuss them in any greater detail, I'm certainly happy to do that. The bottom line from town staff's perspective, though, is that such an option might allow the town to increase voter participation and potentially reduce costs for the elections program in the long run by coordinating its regular elections. Perhaps the biggest drawback to such a move in regular election dates would be the fact that the town is not able to consider an additional Tabor issue in each two-year election cycle. And I'm happy to discuss that with you further if you'd like. So that's thing one that this resolution will do. Thing two is that it effectively says that the next step after the election, if the measure were to pass before the voters in the November election, the next step would be that this board would pass an ordinance effectively rescheduling the date of regular elections from April in even-numbered years to November, as previously mentioned. And then it also, in that ordinance, would address the extension of trustee terms that sit on this board currently to correspond with that date of regular election shift, okay? The final item, well, and let me just quickly kind of pause and go over this. It's very important to note that the Colorado Revised Statutes discuss this process and how the passage of an ordinance following an election effectively lets the Board of Trustees extend the terms of sitting trustees so that it just naturally corresponds with the seating of new board members. Okay, there are many variables to be considered. Ultimately, though, those really are beyond the scope of our discussion tonight. This really simply clarifies what the next step following the election would be, which is the consideration of that ordinance. And I'll leave that item to a future clerk and town staff. The final thing that this resolution does is it effectively appoints the town clerk as the designated election official for the special election that would be scheduled, November 5 general election, considering this item. And it also allows that position to execute an IGA with Larimer County to coordinate the election, okay? In your packet is included a draft of such an IGA. Really, it does very clearly lay out the differences between what the county and the town's responsibilities would be in a coordinated election and what the differences between the designated election officials' responsibilities would be in those two circumstances. Obviously, very important to note. Very basically, though, the county does all of the ballot distribution, counting, auditing, etc. The majority of the resources that are typically used by the county in a coordinated election would be brought to bear for the town for this special election. And then the town staff personnel are responsible for noticing, wording, verification of everything that goes into the ballot effectively, okay? At this point, I've really kind of described all the things that I would really like to highlight in the packet, save one item, and that is the cost of this potential election. Included in the proposed IGA or the IGA draft is a quote from Larimer County, effectively speculating as to the cost for this special election that would occur in November of this year. Is approximately $10,000, and while it I'll just leave it at that for now, okay? This is certainly an important decision to consider for the town. From my perspective as the town clerk, I think that the resources that the county is able to offer in coordinated elections is an incredibly valuable asset to not only this board, but to the residents. While my personal preference certainly would be to move forward and recommend that the board move forward with this item, it is an important step that the town would take. And I also don't want to, I also want to make sure that I'm clear in saying that if the board were to move forward and and the voters decide that they want to change the date of regular elections, and future boards decide that they want to coordinate elections with the county, that does not fully waive all potential liability or chance or possibility that the town would still have to conduct its own election. There are many different cases under the statutes that would require an election, recalls, for example, initiated measures, referred measures. Those are different circumstances that, if timed a certain way, would require the town still to conduct an election. So, with all that said, I'm going to go ahead and pause here and try to take your questions on this item.
Thank you, sir. Trustee Moore.
When you talk about the cost, ultimately it would save us money, correct? Can you elaborate a little bit on that?
Certainly. The county enters into basically a cost sharing algorithm with the different participants in coordinated elections. Very frequently, that cost sharing portion that is allocated to the town of Wellington would be significantly less than what it would cost the town to run its own election. I can't necessarily quantify exactly what that would look like, but if we were to compare the total cost for the 2024 regular election that the town ran, approximately $20,000, compared to what the county is quoting us at for a coordinated election, approximately $10,000, you can quickly see that there's great potential for cost savings in the long run with coordinated elections.
Thank you. Trustee Meagan.
Thank you, sir. I think this is a win-win-win situation that we're going to have here. First off, getting a lot more participation. And it's amazing in a town the size we are that, the April elections do get overlooked so much by most of the people. And people, when it's a state or a federal election, the turnout is so much better. I think we're really going to hear a lot more from the people. And I think the direction, I think it's just going to be good all around at that point. As far as the cost, I know we got a $10,000 cost this year, but you got to figure it's going to pay itself back in a heartbeat. We're not going to have the $20,000 special or regular elections. And so, I mean, that's going to be a win at that point. And like I say, I cannot see a downside on this. The only downside is probably extending our time to be here, but, people just have to put up with us, I guess, for another 6 months. So, but I appreciate that and appreciate your hard work on it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Trustee Daly.
Would passing this resolution finalize about question language?
It would, yes.
Okay, in that case, I might request that we add shall the town of Wellington's regular elections be changed from the first Tuesday of April in even numbered years to the first Tuesday succeeding the first Monday of November. I'd like to add April. Okay. But this is opportunity for more people to vote, more people to participate. There's no downside to that. And not only that, but they get to choose if they want to do it or not. So add an election where more people vote. I love it. It's poetic almost.
Thank you. Trustee Teets.
So my only question, concern related to moving or transitioning this is how budget timeline works as far as when new trustees then get elected and you're right in the middle of, and it's not my worry, that I know that that's town worry, but it's a lot. And I'm curious how the budget timeline, strategic planning and items like that would happen when you're.
I can answer this, or I can at least offer a possibility on how that might be addressed. And one of the pieces of the language that's in this resolution, it's initially we were thinking, or the initial language was have the election, shall we change the dates? But we want to make sure we added in that language about extending the timeline of trustees to make clear to residents that was kind of part of the process, because as soon as this election is over, the board needs to consider an ordinance. And in that ordinance, the board would actually at that point consider how it wants to extend those terms. And there is an option, and the standard in state law is that you're seated, I think, at the first meeting after the election, but there actually is an option under state statutes for statutory towns like ours, so that the town can seat the board on the first Monday after the first Tuesday in January following the election. So that's kind of actually a question for later. If this is adopted, when the board considers that ordinance, and there's going to be a couple questions that need to be discussed then, but there is an option there to seat the board in January. So you'd have the November election, seat the board in January, so that board could continue through, finish the budget process, and then the newly elected people would start January after that budget was approved. So kind of a later question, but a great question.
Right, no, because that's like my brain preemptively trying to plan, like, how is that all going to get accomplished in that condensed amount of timeline? It's not like you guys don't have enough to do during those times. And I had sent questions. Again, thank you for answering all of those questions. I love the idea of the increased voter turnout. I'm worried that, well, I guess my question is, did we not budget additional funds in 2024 budget for a special election? So that funding wouldn't then come out of the general ledger, correct? Because we had already budgeted an additional amount for that budget line item for elections.
It will still come out of the elections line item.
Okay, so in here it says that there'll be an overage.
And there could be an overage, but as long as the bottom line of the clerk's budget doesn't go over, well, that's normal and customary in any of our line items. The election in April did end up costing us a lot more than we had anticipated. So we were hoping, the goal was maybe 15,000 for each, election, and this one ended up being, the April election was just much more expensive than we had anticipated.
Got it. Perfect. That's
bet.
what I was just trying to figure out because I thought we had
Yes.
initially
That was
planned
the
for that.
Yes.
Perfect.
It was the
Okay.
intent. Thank you, Trustee Teets.
Yep. No more questions?
Thank you. Trustee Gannon.
Thank you, Trustee Daly, for pointing out in the ballot question, the resolution, we're missing the word April. And Trustee Teets, thank you for your question. That time of year, that first board meeting after election results are verified, I think that's how the state statute is worded. We're in the final stages of a budget. And that is the wrong time to see a turnover in your board. I'd hate to see someone run on a ticket and get elected so that they can stop all the process that the board has been doing for a number of years. So when we do get around to, if this election question passes, then I would be in favor of seating in January. Of course, that changes your time limits for the sitting trustees to January there. Thank you. That's all I had.
Thank you, sir. Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Holy smokes, I'm super excited about this. I think I started advocating for this about 2 years ago when I said that we should move elections to November. This is going to allow for residents to vote in person or by mail, eliminate confusion about where elections are held, maximize voter turnout, increase election security, and lower our election costs. If this isn't a win tonight, I don't know what is. So let's go.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Ethan, for presenting this. Yeah, I mean, this is a win. If they go for it, right? If the voters want to pass this, it is going to definitely increase the security of the voting. We will have the full force of Larimer County. They do this all the time. They are professional at this. They have the staff for this. So that cost is less and we get more manpower. We get more turnout. I don't see why this wouldn't be a great idea for the town, but we'll leave it up to the voters. But I am full support of this resolution to see how our voters feel. Obviously, I don't know how I feel about sitting here and extending my own time. That's a hard thing for me to do for myself. But if it comes down to that, then I think it's better for the voters in the long run and for the town's finances, and cross that bridge when we get there. Okay, that's all I have on that. Public comment on this item? No. Okay. Any further deliberation from the board? No. All right. Do I hear a motion on this item?
I move to approve resolution number 42-2024.
I move to amend the motion.
Since it hasn't been seconded.
Okay, let's do that. We haven't gone over the other portion yet.
So we can.
With the modifications of adding April into the question is the only thing I would add.
Perfect.
And just to clarify, it should read, shall the town of Wellington's regular elections be changed from the first Tuesday of even numbered years to the first Tuesday succeeding the first Monday?
First Tuesday of
Of
April.
April.
First Tuesday of
even-
April.
of an-
I'm sorry. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
So simply, we just add of April after the first Tuesday in the ballot.
Yes.
All gravy, baby. Do I have a second?
Wait, whose
Second.
motion was that? Was that Trustee Blair? Okay.
We have full clarification. I'm not going to do anything until. Trustee Moyer made the motion. And it was amended before the second.
Good.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Clerk, may I get a roll call, please?
Okay, my apologies. Trustee Moyer first and second was. Mayor Pro Tem Mason, thank you. Trustee Moyer,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Mason,
Yes.
Trustee Cannon,
Yes.
Trustee Daly,
Yes.
Trustee Teets,
Yes.
Trustee Wiegand,
Yes.
Mayor Shosse.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion carries unanimously and the resolution is approved with the stated amendment.
Thank you, sir. All right, we are on to reports. Town Attorney, Mr. Dan Sapienza.
No report at this time.
Thank you, sir. Town Administrator, Ms. Garcia.
So next week is a work session. It's a joint meeting with the Wellington Main Street Board of Directors. We'll be going over the MOU that they are proposing, talking about, what their projects and plans are. It'll give you an opportunity to meet with them and discuss what the future looks like with the Main Street Board. Comcast is out doing utility locates, which is a great step in getting more services for Wellington. Information on the project is on our Town of Wellington website. All the contact information for Comcast, et cetera, it is their project. So contacting us will push us to tell you to contact someone else. So I encourage people to look at our website. I met with Fire Chief Todd Germain this morning. Really a great individual, really excited to see what he has for Wellington. I will schedule a time for him to come and meet you all at a future meeting. And today is Ethan's last regular meeting. I really appreciated his work and the professionalism that he has brought to the clerk's office. It's always difficult to lose an employee, but I can't help but to get excited to see somebody pursuing their passions and moving on to accomplish those things. So I want to thank Ethan for his time here and with Wellington and just thank him for everything he's brought to the town and to the clerk's office.
Thank you, Ethan.
Thank you, Patty, and thank you, board. It's been truly an honor and pleasure to serve the community, and a great personal and professional experience for me. I'm very grateful. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any questions on the staff reports from the board? They're included in the PowerPoint.
I did have one question, and that was related to NoCo Humane. And I did send the question over. I was a bit concerned about the number of calls that we're seeing for the Humane Society, considering we're billed per call. The estimate.
We're not billed per call.
Well, but they averaged it. When they gave us the average and the estimate, they based it off of a call ratio, correct?
Yes, when they created the flat fee for the year, they based it on a call ratio.
Mhm.
So we are not billed per call, but getting to your broader point, I think as we see that we have more calls, as they bring us a proposal for next year in 2025, that ratio I think will change, but we're not billed per call. We pay a flat fee.
Correct. But this next year,
Mhm.
when we do look at seeing that come through, we were half of the estimated for numbers. We're now at 313 is what I'm seeing here. Are we expecting to see?
So I did reach out to Sergeant Quinn to
Mhm.
ask that question because
Mhm.
I'm like, wow, these numbers are not looking great. And he said that it's really the time of year that it's escalated the numbers, that it'll drop down quite a bit. There's something about the summertime and things like that. He felt, based on past reports, that it was really time of year. He also said the Q2 was the first full quarter of service for the town of Wellington. The first quarter that because we had issues with the contract and things like that, he said the numbers were not 100% solid, that perhaps there was some numbers missing. So it might be even a little bit higher than, in all honesty, but we won't know that until the end. And we will start getting information from them for budget coming up. I mean, and we can open that up for an RFP, RFQ type thing process if we need to.
That was where my question was going with this, is if we're looking at $35,000 for the services provided for NoCo Humane, do we start exploring a secondary option if we see a very large estimate come in?
Sure, we've researched some avenues. I mean, there's not a lot of options
Mhm.
other than bringing it in-house and what that might cost. But, that'll be a discussion for the Board of Trustees when the time comes. So
Perfect.
thank you.
Yes, that was my only question related to it.
Thank you. Board reports. Trustee Moore.
Yes, some good news for Wellington. Safe Routes to School has been working hard, dodging the rain, painting logos on the sidewalks for our kiddos to follow to school, in partnership with the town of Wellington. Special shout out to Cody and Bob for their help in this endeavor, and Parks and Rec. Tomorrow, we will have a ribbon cutting at Istone South starting at 5 o'clock. And then we will take one of the safe routes to Centennial Park and have a community barbecue, free hot dogs. We're going to have school supplies and backpacks to give out to the kiddos, cotton candy, face painting, balloon animals, all the works, and just celebrate as a town, end of summer and beginning of school. So please, please come out. Legion is going to be grilling for us. So it'll be a great time. And many businesses in town are involved. We can do great things together. Thanks.
Thank you. Trustee Teets.
I'm gonna go again with my request, and this will probably be a pretty standard request, moving forward until we are able to have a town hall related to water. I know I asked last time, and I know we said that it was a possibility in the future, but as a parent tonight, I truly feel that a town hall related to water, and it's not just where we were, how we got here. It's about that community engagement. It's about seeing if CSU will come and talk to people about the waterwise situations and items like that. It's about exploring different kinds of grants, and a grant that is available to help residents with xeriscaping, and it's learning how to read a meter, and it's getting toilet tabs or water saving shower heads. It's a community event that shows we're here, we're present, but we also want to educate our residents related to the water. This wasn't, you saw the hundreds of comments on Facebook. This was a percentage of the people that we probably will continue to hear from until we have that item that we can share as a town and be like, hey, this is our meeting. This was the education base that came out of this meeting. That link can be shared by any trustee, any resident, if we record it. So there's just so much that you can experience when you do a town hall related to water. And I think it also makes the public works staff, it creates a face to what people are complaining about. When people meet you face to face and they see and interact with you, they have a lot harder time, being extremely nasty and disrespectful. I had heard the story of what Flip, our utility billing person, is experiencing right now. And it's actually what persuaded me to do the post, because I can't imagine being on the other end of that phone and having to listen to people scream at me all day long. If there's anything we can do with getting additional information out there and creating an event where everyone is welcome to learn to interact, I think that it is important. And I know that everyone says that it can wait, we'll bring it back at a later date, but honestly, I really truly don't feel that it can wait. People are at a boiling point.
So what would you want staff to stop doing to make a town hall happen?
Well, I don't know the totality of what they are working on now. So, and unless I understand what their schedules look like, I understand they're busy, but at the same time, there's got to be something where there's some kind of give, because this is important and it's affecting people greatly. There's got to be, I don't know. I'm going to put you on the spot, Meagan. Is there any kind of workability for a town hall?
So let me talk to my team and see if we can come up with some ideas. If it's supported by the board, if that is what the board would like to have done, then we will of course make that happen. But I do need to know that there's support from the board.
And I'll help if I need to. Like,
Yeah, I mean, I understand yes, there's a lot of people that are struggling. The town's in a rough spot. We also have to think about what our staff is currently doing, the things that, like, can Meagan take time away from negotiating a North Pooter contract to have the town hall? There's a lot on the plate of these people. And so pulling all of that manpower for that may not have the best cost to benefit ratio, in, if you understand what I'm saying. And as a whole, for our citizens, it could extend how long the North Pooter agreement goes, could extend how much longer this is painful, because we're pulling those resources. So I personally don't support it. At this point in time, because of the ongoing things that the staff is carrying out to pull that manpower for a town hall. It takes a lot to put a town hall together. But I'm not saying that it's not valid, that, yes, but I can't support that personally. So we'll just go down the line.
I'm supportive of the idea of educating the town, and we were asked for transparency tonight, and we all have different definitions of what that means. But I think anytime we have an opportunity to educate and to help, we should explore that. So I'm in support of our administrator taking stock of the feasibility and possible timing of something like this. I agree with you in that there are a lot of very important things happening right now, and I wouldn't for a second want to stop those. But I do think this is an idea worth exploring, and if we could find a time when it was possible, I'd be supportive of that.
I agree.
A couple years ago, I coordinated with Commissioner Shattuck McNally and CSU Extension Office to bring, and then the town planned it, of course, but to bring a professor and other experts to come speak to people on how to be more water wise. It's actually a whole series, it was even broadcasted. I was the only person who ended up attending. So that sucks, because that was one of our many proactive attempts to help people to get ready to save themselves money. I think it's much more timely now than it was then, because people are very motivated at this point. Unfortunately, I just wish it would have happened before, when we were already offering those things. And I know we're doing many other services right now. I am happy to reach out to my same contacts to see what we can do that would be available from the extension office. They had a presentation already put together, a presenter, all the materials. I'm underestimating the time it takes to help with that, but my thought is that it's a time and place that we need to provide, and then maybe communications around it. So I don't know if that'd be more feasible or not. I'm not going to speak for you, but potentially. But I will reach out to my contacts, see if they're willing and open to do that again. They seemed very eager last time. I'm happy to do it. And I just really hope people attend. We're trying to help you help yourselves to save money. On that thing too, something that we can do, and I think would be really helpful, is this is a call to HOAs. Like, I want to talk to you. Invite me to your next HOA meeting. I want to go there. I'm going to show you a free landscape development plan that we've developed for the town of Wellington that makes sense for water usage. It's already put together. It's beautiful. It shows you how to make wonderful, beautiful neighborhoods and use less water. It's already built. You could simply adopt it as your new landscaping plan. So as people are taking care of themselves and helping themselves to save money in the future, they can do that without any concerns from their HOA. So HOAs, open invitation. I will come to your meeting. Plenty of people would be happy to go there, or we can just provide the resources of, the documentation that's free and available from the town. So that's the other communication piece I could do, because those could then be communicated by each individual neighborhood, and that could reach so many people, and that's neighbors helping neighbors. So I want to push all those ideas too. And maybe this, information session doesn't need to come from the town. It could be independent too. It could be anybody putting on these events. So I'm open to any of those, and I'm happy to help plan as well.
Mayor Pro Tem.
I'm certainly not opposed to the idea of a town hall, but I think we need to understand exactly what that is, right? If we're talking about an educational session that can help our residents understand about consumption and how they can potentially lower their bills, I think that's one thing. If we're talking about a session for folks to air their grievances to town staff as far as what their bills are and how to remedy that, I don't know. I'll be honest and say I don't know how productive that's going to be, right? What folks need to do is contact the municipal services building, reach out, schedule an appointment to have your meter assessed if you believe that you've got a malfunctioning piece of equipment. But the bottom line is, if we're going to support a town hall, I want to be clear about what that town hall is, right? If folks just want to come down and yell at staff, for lack of better terms, that's not productive. And so again, I'm happy to hear folks' comments. That's what I sit here to do. That is my job, right? And everybody on this board, that is our job, to listen to complaints. But I certainly don't want to burden our staff with that type of thing, especially when they've got ongoing projects. So that's my only piece.
So, Trustee Teets, I appreciate that. And, the first time you brought that up, I didn't think the town hall would be very productive. And quite frankly, I think the ship has already sailed for a town hall for an education piece. I've been in a lot of conversations as a town manager with trustees facing angry constituents over a lot of issues, and you just have to be there. You have to, and it doesn't take some wildly coordinated town hall with experts pulled in. The soonest we could get that done is sometime late September. And summer's over with, and people is already turning their irrigation system off and blowing it. They need to be heard now. I mean, we heard a lot of comments today about people complaining, asking the same questions that we have the information for. I'm also disturbed that we didn't do something about this 3 months ago. We knew this was coming. We knew that with this North Poudre contract was still in place, and I'm just as guilty as everybody else. But last year, the costs were high, even though they weren't as high as they are this year because it was a wet year. We knew it was going to happen again, and we know it's going to keep happening until we get a new contract. They're asking for details. I mean, we can't get into the negotiations of the specifics of what that is, but we can generalize enough to say, you know what, if this contract renegotiation goes through, we might see 60 to 80% decreases in water cost, which is a fairly accurate statement. And it doesn't say anything about the details of what the contract negotiations would be. But we've got to be able, and this is why I volunteered earlier that I'm going to be available all next week. I want to hear from people. I want to be able to talk to people. I mean, they're asking questions. They're making assumptions based on the chatter on social media because none of us have made any kind of reply back to them to dispel those kind of crazy rumors of missing money and overcharging and all this other crap that's absolutely not going on. We know what the problem is. It's the contract. It's the interest rate that has gone up in the past 2 years, which has tripled, and it's impacting everybody. So yes, I like the idea of a town hall, but I don't think we can get that in place in time to address people's immediate need. I did hear some comments today about why are we charging late fees? Why are we charging cutoff fees? Why are we charging all these administrative fees on this? Why don't we just waive all that until we get a new contract? And people that are struggling, they can't make their payment. They're going to pay an extra money on top of that because they're late. Let's waive the late fees. I know that's something that as a town manager, I would do that by myself without authorization from the board at times. But if the board can say, look, all these extra fees, we know it's tough for you. We're not going to charge you administrative fees. We're not going to cut off your water. Guess what? In Fraser, we didn't cut off people's water because it's a quality of life issue. Okay. We had to deal with people who wouldn't pay or couldn't pay or And most of the time it's people who just won't pay or won't pay until the last minute. And we all know how that works. But don't cut off their water and charge them a fee for doing that, and then turn the water back on and charge them another fee for that, especially if they've got a $800 water bill. It just doesn't make any sense to me. So that's one thing we can immediately do right off the bat. Say, hey, you know what? We heard you. We're gonna waive all those administrative fees that go along with that for lates and this kind of stuff. But we have got to individually or collectively be out there in the public talking about this, make ourselves available, listen to them, share what we're doing. I mean, it's not just staff. We just can't sit back and wait for staff to finish doing. It's been a 2-year negotiation. It's tough to negotiate a contract between two governmental entities, especially with two different opposing views of what they want. But we're close. We're real close. I wish we had time to do a town hall 3 months ago. That would have been the time to do this, warn everybody. And I think when I campaigned early this year, I was telling people, yeah, it's going to cost you money. It's going to cost you money again this year. And why didn't I do something about it then? I didn't. And I'm sorry for that. But I'm going to try to do everything I can now. But I think the time for the town hall, although it's needed, I don't think it's going to give the people the response that they're expecting right now. So we individually have got to be making that. Don't push it off on staff. That's our job. We represent the town. Staff represents us. So that's all I've got to say.
Thank you. It is 10 o'clock.
I just wanted to note that our next town hall is the budget bonanza, and that's non-negotiable. I have to.
10 o'clock, all in favor to extend for 15 minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Okay.
So for example, our irrigation audits, we've been promoting the heck out of that. We talk about it, we push it out through social media. We've had 15 people sign up. So they're just not engaging. I did check with Meagan because she does monitor that water enterprise fund and waiving fees. You know, I always talk to my team before we start talking about changing anything related to the fee structure. She's comfortable with late fees and the disconnect fee, but we really probably need to talk about the reconnect fees because we do need to pay for staff time. There is a cost for those disconnections, and we work really hard to keep our fees in line with just what the actual time is to go out and do that work. So let me work with my team, see what we can come up with some adjustments perhaps, and I'll just send an email out and let you all know where we're at. About the town hall, you're right. Trustee Cannon would probably be close to September, and the people that would be hosting or helping support that town hall are those that have the most important budgets. And they would not have time at that point in time to help facilitate a discussion, water discussion in September. Yeah, and exactly.
Yeah.
And let's see where
Let's
we
not
get with
repeat this year and do it
with
better next
our
year.
North Pooter. I've already got it on my task list for 2025 to take a look at it, make some decisions in April about how we move forward. So, we missed the boat this year. Who knew how hot it was going to be? Last year, we did not get the complaints that we're getting this year. We didn't get the community outcry. So, who knew? You know, and maybe I should read the Farmer's Almanac or something just to be a little more prepared in follow-up years. But we'll do a better job next year. And I think the trustees reaching out to the residents is huge. You know, and if you end up with questions that you need help with, let us know. We are here to help you answer those questions and be part of those conversations.
May I ask that while you're exploring options with your team that you consider the implications of a moratorium on the shutoffs? I agree with Trustee Cannon on that. It concerns me that basic needs aren't being met, and it's heartbreaking. So if we could just even look at that as a possibility and see what that looks like.
So we did that during COVID, and it was horrific when we had to start implementing it because people owed so much money. and it just gets them further and further behind. I feel like the option for the payment plan, and yes, we do try to work out a 3 or 6 month payment plan, but we do work with our residents because we don't want to shut off their water. We don't want to do that. Our goal is to keep their water on. So the payment plans, I feel, is the best option, unless I get specific direction from the board, but I would truly not, it's not a good idea.
I had a question related to that. So in the base rate, the way that the base rate was calculated is you receive that first 3,000 gallons with the base rate you pay, correct?
Correct.
So, and this is what I was trying to figure out when someone was discussing to me who has their water shut off right now, is if they are paying for that basic necessity of that 3,000 gallons of water with the base rate, whether or not their water is going or not going, they still get charged a base rate every month, correct?
Yes.
So really, when you look at it, they're paying for that 3,000 gallons with their base rate. Is there, and I know this is a long leap, you already know where I'm going with this, right? Is there a way to say that since they are paying for that 3,000 gallons, is there a way to monitor it where you say, we're giving the basic necessity to 3,000 gallons because you are paying for this water in the base rate? And then at least that way, they're not completely without a service. We're not seeing people go thousands of dollars into debt. But is there a way to still provide a basic 3,000 gallons since they're paying for it? And I'm sorry, that might create a lot of work for shutting off a thing after you hit that 3,000
Yeah,
cap, but
we don't have the tracking mechanism for that. I hear where you're going. And unfortunately, once someone is shut off, if they haven't called to make a payment plan, then they have to pay the full amount to get reconnected. That's
Mhm.
just our town policy. And that's been in place for several years.
So if I may,
Yes.
and I appreciate that conversation. I appreciate you saying that because that makes a lot of sense.
Yep, I hear you.
It does. And I said before, in Fraser, we didn't shut their water off. We put liens on their houses if they got to a certain point, and what does a lien do? It doesn't get money back to you, but it does put an obligation on them and that property. They can't sell their property, through that lien. That, of course, we weren't the same population as Wellington, but that served sufficiently to keep money flowing into the town. Send notice that, hey, you either pay this on a payment plan, or we're going to put a lien on your property. I know it's a little extra work and such like that, but I think let's explore every option. Let's not just say, well, we've been doing that for years, so let's just keep doing that.
Sure.
I think times are dire enough that we need to be thinking outside the box a little bit, and exploring some things to get some relief to everybody in this town, not just the 60 people or 70 people here tonight. Everybody in town, every household is going through this.
Well, hopefully it will not be like this forever. So
Well, and
hopefully
I
it's
was
temporary.
And I was telling somebody tonight, if we get the negotiations with this contract down, we're going to have to go back and look at our rate structure and
Absolutely,
our tiers.
Oh, yeah. That's the
Absolutely,
point.
that's scheduled.
Because all those tiers will drop dramatically.
That is scheduled.
Yeah.
Let's not
Yeah.
put the cart before the horse.
Okay, we will look outside the box. I will commit to that. We'll work on that this week. It's
It was well needed.
all good.
Well
Thank you,
needed.
Trustee Teets.
Yes, thank you. Was that the first board report?
I'm sorry.
Oh, no, second. Trustee Cannon.
I'd like to congratulate Team Wellington, Town of Wellington, in the golf tournament with the Boys and Girls Club on Saturday. We came in last place. I've got copies of Golf for Beginners in my truck.
I already got one of those.
Oh, from the last tournament when we came in last, okay. It was fun. We raised some money for the Boys and Girls Club, and it's good to participate. And I enjoyed spending some time with my fellow trustees and in a relaxed setting, just having a good time. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Trustee Wiegand.
No report, but I do want to wish my best to our town clerk that's leaving, and he's done a great job. I do have a question. When you came aboard, was there a guideline that you worked with for the election, the special elections? And if there was not, do you have one that you can pass on to the next town clerk? That way, and that's going to give us at least a framework there.
Absolutely.
It's going to make it a lot easier for the next town clerk too.
Great question, Trustee Wiegand. Thank you. I mostly used sort of what I'd learned from other municipal clerks as I engaged with them through the process of onboarding. There are a lot of references out there that are published by Colorado Municipal League. The state statute is also fairly clear on how municipal elections are to be run. So those are all resources that I kind of used to pull together the solution for this the April 2024 election. I'm planning to put together a transition document that covers sort of the tasks and procedures that I fulfill in my role, and I'm hoping that that will certainly be useful to either different members of staff or the next town clerk. So yes.
Thank you and good luck.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Well, same thing as Trustee Wiegand. I really appreciate your service, Mr. Clerk, and wish you the best. So thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Daly.
Even though we got last place, I did win longest drive. Again. So two times worst loser and 2 times longest drive, which nobody quite understands how that can happen. For the rest of the week, there's many activities where you can support Wellington, specifically just organically grown, amazing organizations of people helping Wellington. Okay, so the first one was already mentioned, Safe Routes to School, a group of committed and curious and really, really outstanding people trying to help kids. The other one is the Community Services Center. They're doing a concert at the Manor on Thursday. You have to bring a box of cereal and $10, and it's going to be a fantastic show. Huge band. Okay, so that is a great way to support the Community Services Center. Also on Thursday is a Main Street Market. That's every Thursday, even though summer breaks over, Main Street Market isn't. So keep going to Main Street Market on Thursday nights in Centennial Park, our farmers market. And this is the first week of school, and I'm pretty sure it's the first year of our graduating seniors. Is that true? Mm-hmm. This will be the first graduating class of Wellington Middle High School revived. So I think that's fantastic. So please be safe and don't run over kids. That's always my reminder. There's going to be a lot of kids. Obviously, you're working a lot on that, but be careful because we're the ones driving in our streets with our kids. Like it's us and our neighbors. So it's all of our responsibility to keep those kids safe and everyone, but specifically kids. And I think that was all my reminders. Thank you. Longest drive.
Thank you. Ethan, it's been a pleasure, sir. You're a man of integrity, honor, and you do everything wholeheartedly. And I have seen you do amazing things as the clerk, and I just want to really let you know that I appreciate everything that you've done. And it's been a joy working with you, buddy. Yeah. Just want to restate on the water, just one final closeout statement. We know it's tough. It's not easy for us that sit up here. It's not easy for you in the community that voted us in, and maybe you're unhappy and with the results that you've gotten from us so far. Just want to let you know that we are all working on it. Staff is working on each and every single one of you. I want to thank you for not ever giving up and always looking for other opportunities. Questions, thoughts, don't ever apologize for them. Everybody here is worth hearing. Every idea is worth hearing because we never know which one may end up working out, right? And if we keep our mouth shut, we may never get that opportunity. So never apologize for that or feel bad for that at all. So I appreciate each and every one of you. I appreciate staff. I thank you guys for all of the hard work that you put in, and thank you for that presentation today and preparing for that. And Dan and Patty, you guys, rock stars, thank you for always giving me the best information that you possibly can and doing what you can for the town itself as well. And to the community, everybody that's out there, we do appreciate you guys and we do care about you and we're doing everything we can. So give us some grace and be nice to Flip, please. That's all I have. Having no further business, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I will now adjourn the regular meeting, time being 10:16 p.m.